We begin tonight with Musk and Big Balls.
Big Balls.
Big Balls.
Big Balls, who worked for Elon Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency, Doge.
In the one case of the Big Balls kid, a literal teenager.
Big Balls online, Big Balls here, that Katie's talking about.
A 19-year-old that goes by the username Big Balls.
So that would be one way that we could refer to him.
Young computer whizzes, the aforementioned Big Balls.
Because who among us doesn't feel better about big balls in charge of American air traffic control?
Everywhere is freaks and Harris, dykes and ferries. Tell me where is sanity? Tax the rich, feed the poor. Tell there are no rich no more. Population keeps on breeding, nation bleeding, still more bleeding economy. Life is funny, skies are sunny, bees make honey, who needs money, monopoly?
You may not like how things are going. You may not agree with those who seem to have power over your happiness. But here is a great secret of life. You have way more influence than you realize. Gandhi called this influence truth force, love force, soul force. It is the inherent power in you to conjure the truth and the very best in other people. It is the power in you to change people's hearts and minds by changing the way you see them, by changing the way you observe them. Nobel physicist Max Planck said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Scientists have discovered that when a teacher is merely told a student has a higher IQ, that student's IQ rises to meet the teacher's expectations. Expecting the best from people brings out the best in people. But the reverse is also true. Seeing the worst in people brings out the worst in people. Your consciousness has the power to conjure the very best or the worst in everyone you observe, even at a distance. Our friends, our families, our children, our co-workers, our police, even our presidents. We have the power to change each and every one of their hearts and minds simply by changing our own hearts and minds about them. We all have darkness in us, but we also have the light. And in every moment we have another chance, another choice of whether darkness or the light is given reign over our consciousness. What you stand witness for in others is strengthened in them by the power of your observation. When you look for the worst in someone, when you make them wrong in your mind, when you refuse to see the best in them, you are committing a spiritual assault of the worst kind. For you are testifying against their ability to choose the light, standing witness for the darkness in them, and strengthening its power over their heart and mind. If you've ever faced a hostile crowd, a hostile cop, a hostile lover, you felt the destructive force of another's contempt for you. Do not give in to this way of seeing. Stand witness for the light in others. The unassailable divine spark forever shines in the hearts of every man, woman, and child, just waiting to be called forward. When you call on the divine spark in someone, you lend it the strength to prevail in their consciousness. The power of your divine witnessing calls forth the truth in other people's minds. It calls forth the love in their hearts. It calls forth the grace and the beauty of their souls. Divine witnessing is the most powerful form of nonviolence because it heals the very source of violence. It turns your enemies into friends, even when you thought they were deplorable and wrong. In a place where you see no light, you make your own. You call upon the divine spark within you and invite it to reveal itself in those who oppose you. The divine spark in your heart ignites itself in others through the blazing light and love of your consciousness. Witness for that, strengthen that, insist upon that. The truth in me calls out to the truth in you, for it is only that I will stand witness to. It is only that I am determined to see. It is only that I will testify for. For to condemn you would be to condemn me, and we are the same. And so I insist on regarding you as true and good and wise and kind. And so it will be, because that is what we all want to see.
There's a certain kind of person who doesn't take no for an answer. They don't walk in quietly. They parade in, trailblazing, eyebrow raising, status quo breaking. Grazing greatness, braving hatred, and taking up space. Never got a seat at the table, so they can't sit and behave. They'd rather defy the rules and amaze. There's a certain kind of person who doesn't wait for greatness. They make it. Eyebrow raising, status quo breaking. Grazing greatness, braving hatred, and taking up space. Never got a seat at the table, so they can't sit and behave. They'd rather defy the rules and amaze. There's a certain kind of person who doesn't wait for greatness. They make it.
You're going to be called, you're going to be challenging the status quo. You're going to be called crazy. Many people also called Noah crazy. And then the rains came. And all the fact checkers died. You have to persevere.
the streets, the wicked tropical charms, the embassies, lying hideous yards where tourists snore and decay. And when they dance in a a mask, an equatorial haze into the past, a colonial maze where there's no more confetti to throw. You wouldn't know what to say to yourself. Love is a poverty you couldn't sell. Misery waits in big hotels. Be evicted. You're out of luck. You're singing funeral songs to the studs. They're anabolic and bronze. They seem to strut in their millennial fogs till they fall down and deflate. You wouldn't know what to say to yourself. Love is a poverty you couldn't sell. Misery waits in big hotels. Be evicted. Oh, and now you've had your fun under an air-conditioned sun. It's burned into your eyes, leaves you plain and left behind. I see them rise and fall into the jaws of a pestilent love. You wouldn't know what to say to yourself. Love is a poverty you couldn't sell. Misery waits in big hotels. Be evicted.
light. The future is a beautiful place, but you'll need some training in order to inhabit it. In the future, technology evolves faster than any human mind can think. When the singularity occurred, we became like gods, able to create entire worlds in the blink of an eye. Every thought had drastic immediate impact. All of our dreams became a reality. But so did our nightmares. The future became a battle of ideas. We had to learn to direct our minds to prevent dark psychological forces from destroying all of us. Now, with every new world we create, we summon the sacred imperative for life. Let there be light. 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 How can we be from the future, you might ask? Let us explain. Plants harvest light with near perfect efficiency. But this is impossible under classical physics. Along the way to the photosynthesizing core, photons of light should collide with other particles. But they don't. A photon reaching the core is as likely to succeed as you sprinting blindfolded through a dense forest, reaching the center without striking a single tree. Plants are engaged in a kind of miracle. The plant puts the photon into a state of quantum superposition, multiplying it by every route that photon could possibly take. Imagine blindly sprinting through a forest, being multiplied into every one of the billions of possible paths. If any one of your possibilities were observed hitting a tree, the superposition would collapse, and that would be your final outcome. But the plant patiently refuses to observe any of these casualties, while at its heart it continues to sing, "Let there be light. Let 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 there be light." When any of the possibilities finally reaches the core without fail, only that winner is observed. All the other possibilities disappear. The winner is transmitted back through time from the future and becomes the only possibility that ever existed. This is how photons reach the plant's core with impossible precision. This is how you and every organism in existence overcame the massive improbabilities of life. This is how we are from the future. This is how you will become the light of the world as we invoke the sacred imperative together. Let there be light. 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 Let there be light.
Hello, hello. Welcome, Patriots, to Patriot News Broadcasting. I'm Jack. It's good to see you again. It is almost midnight on February 8th. Most of you will see this Sunday, February 9th. I still haven't had any word yet about the JFK files, so I wanted to show you this image I noticed today. This is on the 107 fan chat on Telegram, right? And there's 107 page and 107 fan chat. And the signature is, I think it's just supposed to be initials, JOS, but what do you see when you look at that? I know it's probably just me seeing what I want to see, but can you not help but think that that looks like the word July? Oh, sorry. Doesn't that look like the word July to you? It looks like July to me. I know. It probably doesn't mean anything necessarily, but that's my brain at work. So I just got done. I hope you guys liked that intro. I knew you guys missed a little bit of intro here and there, so threw in some new stuff there. Let's go ahead and take a look at some news. It's not like there's a ton of news, but there's a handful of really great new videos out there I know you guys will want to see. Plus, of course, a new 107 from just a little bit ago today with Juan and John Michael Chambers. And so we're going to watch that and these new videos. Let's take a look at one or two news stories first. Let's see. There's a bunch of these from Doc. Trump is dismantling all of the Israel-installed SES agencies. Here's a real good one. Israel picking fights with Gaza every single day is what paved the way for foreign aid blank checks. They used it as a mechanism to build up their defense capabilities and attack us from within. That's an important one. If you're pro-Rothschild, you'll be deported. That's a promise. There seems to be an overly positive amount of assets and funds in the system. Anyone know where it's all coming from? Trump has all the leverage. Connect the dots. Two ledgers, public and private. When will all be public? Well, much later in the day, he put up another post I liked. And let me see if I can find it. I hope you guys are having a good day. I do miss our lives. I was going to go live today, but I didn't get home in time. So here it is. We're going to need some sort of transfer of wealth so people can survive the next several months of digging through documents of corruption and not focusing on their real jobs. Yeah, you said it there, Doc. I like that guy. I do like that guy. So, Senator Alan Clark in Arkansas has filed a bill to make ivermectin over the counter. And that's a big one. There's a couple posts on that. It's very important, and that could be life-changing for a lot of people, actually. Excuse me. Most messed up U.S. aid initiative I've seen so far. $500,000 for efforts to expand atheism in Nepal. Here's an important one. Let's see if I can find both parts. Trump ends every single media contract at the GSA. President Trump ordered the termination of all media contracts within the General Services Administration. This came after it was revealed that the federal government was paying millions to Politico for Politico Pro. According to Axios, Trump told the General Services Administration to terminate every single media contract. In an email, the White House wrote 2 points. Pull all contracts for Politico, BBC, E&E, maybe, it looks like, and Bloomberg, as well as pull all media contracts for just GSA, cancel every single media contract for GSA only. So we heard about some of that because that happened on Thursday, but we didn't hear about all those channels and the whole point. So check out this video real quick. This post goes with it. This is why I think Trump is taking Gaza. 2 million Palestinians live packed into this prison. 50% are children. It's 1 million kids. It's always been about the kids. And it's only 25 miles long. And so let's go ahead and show that video real quick. Check it out.
This strip is only 25 miles long and about 5 miles wide. 2 million Palestinians live packed into this tiny space, one of the most densely populated places in the world. Half are children. Many live in refugee camps speckled throughout the besieged territory. A stunning 80% of the population relies on foreign aid. Aptly called an open-air prison, there are only 2 ways to leave the enclosed area: the Erez crossing into Israeli territory and the Rafah crossing, which goes to Egypt. Both are completely controlled by hostile militaries. What Israel calls a border is actually a heavily militarized perimeter fence comprised of barbed wire, surveillance networks, and lethal no-go zones. If you roam too close to the so-called no-go zone, which extends 300 meters out from the fence, Israeli forces have authorized themselves to shoot to kill. Thousands of unarmed Palestinians have been shot for violating this rule in 2018 alone. The same goes for Gaza's coastline. It is the only place in the world where you can't even flee by boat, as refugees elsewhere often do. Fishermen are restricted to only a few nautical miles from their shore. Straying past that, even by accident, you can be blown out of the water by Israeli warships. A massive seawall in the north and south, currently being extended, boxes them into their small sliver of sea. This violence is compounded by an economic blockade that imposes a chokehold of poverty on Gaza, resulting in one of the highest unemployment rates in the world, according to the World Bank. 70% of the youth are unemployed, with 52% for the general population.
I probably should have mentioned at the beginning, but you guys probably saw by now about the giant earthquake, the 7.6 earthquake that hit the Caribbean area this evening. There was a tsunami warning, but I don't believe anything happened. It was in the Cayman Islands area, so we will see what comes of that. I'm sure we'll be seeing damage soon, and if there's any, it looks like it was centered near the ocean, but I'm not sure. Just in, Russian and Americans share airstrip and airspace at Aero India 2025 for the first time in history. Isn't that nice? Russians and Americans getting along, doing the right thing. It's good stuff right there. So the Super Bowl is tomorrow night, and there's all kinds of stuff going on there. We talked about Trump taking out 5 $8 million ads for a grand total of $40 million that you will see aired tonight or tomorrow night if you see the Super Bowl, or tonight if you're watching this Sunday, which a lot of you probably will. Check out this video here. This woman decided to ask her Alexa, I think it is, ahead of time what the score would be or who would win or something. It gave her a whole gist of stuff, so go ahead and check that video out.
So this is pretty interesting. I asked Grok who won the Super Bowl and what was the score. And apparently Kansas City Chiefs is going to win with a score of 35-38. But I also believe that a big case of revelation of the method is about to occur. So apparently the Super Bowl will take place 47 years and 45 weeks since the release date of Black Sunday. And we all know that Trump is the 45th and 47th president. Symbolism will be their downfall. If you don't know what Black Sunday was about, let me go ahead and tell you. So there was a blimp pilot that was in the Vietnam War, and he was psychotic. He wanted to kill himself in a big old way. So he teams with a Palestinian terrorist. And this terrorist plans to use Lander, the pilot, to set off a bomb at the Super Bowl by crashing his aircraft into the crowded stands. Just keep in mind that it's a Palestinian terrorist. Elon Musk posts this, which is a blimp on fire. The Super Bowl is being held in Louisiana and will take place 9 months and 11 days after Louisiana's birthday. Also, assassination in Gematria equals 92, and the Super Bowl will be held on 2/9. If you take a close look at the logo for the Super Bowl, 666. On February the 4th, Trump says he's given advisors instructions for Iran to be obliterated if it assassinates him. Now, we all know what has happened in the past few days about Gaza and how Trump wants to take it over. We know that the Palestinians that lived in Gaza practice Islam, if y'all get where I'm going with that. Now let's look at this movie, The Dark Knight Rises. Now watch this.
Really transferring power from one administration to another, or from one party to another. But we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people.
And we give it back to you, the people.
For too long, a small group in our nation's capital
are corrupt,
has reaped the rewards of government,
the rich,
while the people have borne the cost.
The oppressors of generations who have kept you down with myths of opportunity.
The establishment protected itself, but not the citizens of our country.
And do you accept the resignation of all of these liars?
Now watch this part of the movie.
Let the games begin.
What is this going to cause? Him to activate the... Do y'all remember in the movie Leave the World Behind? It started with airplane crashes, and then these little red notes came out of the sky. Do you see what that writing is? Is this all predictive programming? Is this card from the Illuminati card game the reason the New World Order is going to come? It just has to start with this. And is the reason because Trump's going to be at the Super Bowl and this is going to happen? The reason why Elon Musk is now on the Time magazine as the president? I'm not saying anything's going to happen, but just because of the plane crashes, I knew who was going to win the Super Bowl. And even AI is saying it. So if we use revelation of the method and predictive programming to see what's about to happen, the clues kind of seem like it's possible. Also, the Super Bowl will be at Caesars Superdome. And Elon Musk posted this. Assassination of Julius Caesar. And a picture of Mario with a red hat, because that's what he wears. Also, Netanyahu presents Trump with a golden beeper at Washington meeting, along with this one, with the number 33, of course, and 9/17/24. Do y'all remember what that was? On 9/17/24, the Lebanon pager explosions happened, which was what? A terrorist attack.
I'm not sure what's going to happen tomorrow, but I do know one thing. They've been showing a lot of symbolism for that day. Remember, revelation of the method is a spiritual law. The Lord gives his prophecies in the Bible. Satan gives his because he's the prince of the air and airwaves on television, music, through books, and any other outlet he chooses. If you do not know Christ, it is time to get to know him, because this year, the year of the snake, is going to get wilder than it already has been. The Bible says that if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and that he died on the cross for your sins, you will be saved. Repent and turn to Christ now before it is too late.
All right, and next up, another flying machine. This one out of Chinese from a China automaker. Check this out. In other news tonight, famed pedophile Jimmy Savile's house caught fire in Scotland. How'd that happen? Check out that video real quick. Alright guys, so that's really all I got in the way of news. I've got some other videos we're going to watch real quick before Juan. This one explains some stuff with Doge, like in much deeper detail what Doge is doing, who's doing it, these people that he has hired, big balls. You're going to hear about big balls. It's hilarious. He's got an awesome team of young guys, just genius young guys working for him. So the sooner they build me a flying car, the sooner I can fulfill my heart's desire. I might share that Trump video again about that. I also have another video I'm gonna put on after Juan, and it's actually a really good video that I hope you stick around and watch, because it sort of goes into detail into Luciferianism, and I don't mean in the way that the other stuff we've seen where they talk about the dark, deep, nasty stuff. It sort of is explaining it in a way of, this is what drives these people, this is how far gone they are, and I think the author describes it as if you want to defeat your enemy, you need to know your enemy, kind of thing. And so I think I'll put that on after Juan. Israel admits to killing its own people at Nova Music Festival. Gonna put that quick video on too shortly. So what I'll do is put a couple of these quick videos. Got a couple of really good funny ones I want you guys to watch. And then we will put Juan and John Michael Chambers on. And check out that episode about defunding the deep state. It should be awesome. I can't wait to see it. And hopefully sometime I will get a chance to come back and talk after that. I also have another video, a short one, about Trump's next ATF director. And I think I will start the videos out with that because he basically saying, like, if you think his other appointments are doing crazy things, wait till you see what this guy does. So sounds fascinating. I might have seen that one earlier, but I don't remember him mentioning the name. I don't know. Now I'm mumbling. You know, it's late. I probably should be sleeping right now, but and like I said, there's no breaking news. I mean, Jimmy Savile's house on fire. There's a big ass earthquake that might be newsworthy tomorrow. And I will try to get to you guys early tomorrow, and hopefully I'll do a live tomorrow night from my phone if I'm lucky. So I'm going to put these videos on for you folks, and Juan of Savin, and then the documentary about Luciferianism, which is, let me check how long that is. I think it is 35 minutes, so not bad. It's worth the watch. So, yep, here we go, guys. Check out the videos, and I will see you all again here soon. Love you guys. God bless.
Just wait until everybody finds out who Trump's about to name for ATF director. Oh my. If you are a pro-Pew, you are excited. If you are not, I don't know what to tell you, because this guy is wild, and he believes that if it is a rule against anything that reads outside the Second Amendment, then it is an overstep of the government. Like, what you're seeing is more so the government going in the direction that the founding fathers had in mind. Like, it was not supposed to be this big. And it got so big that instead of, like, using shady money within the country, they started taking shady money outside of the country, funneling it outside the country, and then swinging it back in through a nonprofit. And that's horseshit. And that all needs to come out. So, but ATF, yeah.
Let me tell you a little story about Doge.
The clock struck 2 a.m. on January 21st, 2025. In Treasury's basement, fluorescent lights hummed above 4 young coders. Their screens cast blue light across government-issued desks, illuminating energy drink cans and agency badges. As their algorithms crawled through decades of payment data, one number kept growing: $17 billion in redundant programs. And counting. Edward Corristein's code had already mapped 3 subsystems. Luke Ferreter's algorithms were tracing payment flows across agencies. Ethan Chautran's analysis revealed patterns that career officials didn't even know existed. By dawn, they would understand more about Treasury's operations than people who had worked there for decades. This wasn't a hack. This wasn't a breach. This was authorized disruption. While career bureaucrats prepared orientation packets and welcome memos, Doge's team was already deep inside the payment systems. No committees, no approvals, no red tape. Just 4 coders with unprecedented access and algorithms ready to run.
The beautiful thing about payment systems is that they don't lie. You can spin policy all day long, but money leaves a trail.
That trail led to staggering discoveries. Programs marked as independent revealed coordinated funding streams. Grants labeled as humanitarian aid showed curious detours through complex networks. Black budgets once shrouded in secrecy began to unravel under algorithmic scrutiny. By 6 a.m., Treasury's career officials began arriving for work. They found systems they thought impenetrable already mapped, networks they believed hidden already exposed, power structures built over decades revealed in hours. Their traditional defenses, slow-walking decisions, leaking damaging stories, stonewalling requests, proved useless against an opponent moving faster than their systems could react. By the time they drafted their first memo objecting to this breach, 3 more systems had already been mapped.
Pull this thread and the whole sweater unravels.
He wasn't wrong, but he misunderstood something crucial. That was exactly the point. This wasn't just another transition. This wasn't just another reform effort. This was the start of something unprecedented. A revolution powered by preparation, presidential will, and technological precision. The storm had arrived, and Treasury was just the beginning. For decades, this principle, articulated by conservative strategist Troop Hemingway, remained more theory than practice. Previous administrations spent months, even years, trying to staff key positions. Trump's first term saw barely 100 political appointees confirmed by February 2017. Every delay meant another victory for the permanent bureaucracy. But this time was different. While media focused on campaign rallies and political theater, a quiet army was being assembled. In offices across D.C., veteran strategists mapped the administrative state's pressure points. Think tanks developed action plans for every agency. Policy institutes trained rapid deployment teams. Former appointees shared battlefield intelligence from previous administrations' failures. By Inauguration Day, over 1,000 pre-vetted personnel stood ready, each armed with clear objectives, mapped legal authorities, and direct lines to support networks. This wasn't just staffing, it was a battle plan decades in the making.
This is the new normal. He's having the time of his life. We've done more in 2 weeks than others did in years.
The secret wasn't just speed, it was precision. Instead of waiting for Senate confirmations, the transition team prioritized non-Senate confirmed positions. While Democrats prepared for traditional confirmation battles over cabinet posts, an army of aligned personnel was already moving into place. Strategic positions were identified. Legal authorities were mapped. Support networks were established.
We don't have a lot of time. 4 years is a lot of time in political life, but it's not a long time in real life.
This urgency drove innovation. When DOJ's young coders breached Treasury's payment systems, pre-positioned legal teams neutralized resistance within hours. When career officials tried revoking system access, they discovered DOJ's authority came from levels they couldn't challenge. When leaks surfaced, rapid response units fed counter-narratives to alternative media almost instantly.
When you look at the people surrounding the president, we're trying to make it sort of easy for him to do what he wants to do in government. When you have the entire team firing on all cylinders, you can get a lot done.
The permanent bureaucracy never saw it coming. They were prepared for resistance. They were ready for protests. They had plans for leaks and legal challenges. But they had no defense against an opponent who had spent years preparing for this moment. This wasn't just about filling seats. It was about building a machine designed to transform American governance. Every position mattered. Every appointment carried weight. And behind it all stood a president counting down not years or months, but weeks and days, driving his team forward with relentless energy. The foundation was set, and the revolution was just beginning. USAID fell next. No midnight raids this time. No secret algorithms, just a simple memo on agency letterhead. Pursuant to executive authority. Career officials panicked, and for good reason. Created by executive order in 1961, USAID could be dissolved with a single presidential signature. No congressional approval needed. No court challenges possible. Just one pen stroke, and 6 decades of carefully constructed financial networks would face sunlight.
Pull this thread, and a lot of sweaters start unraveling.
The resistance was immediate and telling. Career officials who had barely blinked at Treasury's exposure now worked through weekends to block DOJ's access. Democratic senators who had ignored other moves suddenly demanded emergency hearings. Former USAID officials flooded media outlets with warnings about institutional knowledge loss and diplomatic catastrophe. But their traditional defenses crumbled against DOJ's new playbook. While bureaucrats drafted memos about proper procedures, the young coders were already mapping payment flows. While senators scheduled hearings, pre-positioned personnel were implementing new transparency protocols. While media allies prepared hit pieces, DOJ's algorithms exposed decades of questionable transactions. The scale was breathtaking. EPA climate initiatives, not just mapped, found unauthorized programs in 47 states. Education's DEI maze, not just exposed, revealed coordination across 1,200 programs. Intelligence community black budgets, not just traced, uncovered patterns hidden for 30 years.
The administrative state runs on two things: control of information and money flows. We're not just exposing their networks, we're rewriting their DNA.
The cracks began showing in unexpected places. A career EPA director, tears streaming. Everything we built. A USAID veteran, hands shaking, they're inside all of it. A Treasury lifer, closing his office. They move faster than we can think. Across Washington, officials who had weathered every reform since Reagan began quietly updating LinkedIn profiles. A deputy director, open to opportunities. An agency chief, exploring new challenges. A bureau head, time for change. DOJ's algorithms weren't just programs, they were archaeology tools, excavating decades of buried networks. Each data point connected to another. Each discovery revealed new targets. Each pattern exposed larger systems.
It's beautiful, like watching a galaxy map itself.
For the permanent bureaucracy, this wasn't just change. It was an extinction-level event. Their power came from controlling who got paid, when they got paid, and what they got paid for. Now those controls were evaporating like dawn burning away darkness. The pattern was devastating in its simplicity. Map the money flows, deploy aligned personnel, expose the networks, restructure the systems. By the time bureaucrats drafted objections to one breach, 3 more had already occurred. The revolution wasn't just spreading, it was accelerating. The first bulldozer arrived in Springfield, Ohio, at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday. By noon, 3 blocks of notorious potholes were filled. Local news crews arrived to find not just construction crews, but data analysts with laptops, mapping every dollar spent against real-time progress. This wasn't just road repair. This was revolution in action. The woman grabbed the analyst's arm, tears in her eyes. 12 years. 12 years I've been calling about these potholes. He turned his laptop, showing real-time data flows. Analyst. Look, your tax dollars. Actually working. She stared at the screen. My God, it's really happening. Across America, funds once lost in administrative mazes suddenly found their way to actual problems needing solutions. In rural Tennessee, broadband expansion projects long buried under bureaucratic red tape broke ground overnight. In Michigan, water treatment plants received upgrades that bureaucrats had studied for decades but never approved. The transformation was measurable. In just 2 weeks, tens of thousands of redundant programs identified. Billions in waste exposed. Hundreds of unauthorized initiatives halted. Countless local projects unleashed. But the real metric? Trust in government rising for the first time in 50 years. The revolution spread with surgical precision. Real-time tracking replaced quarterly reports. Algorithmic oversight replaced review boards. Local solutions replaced federal mandates. Results replaced process. Vance. He's done more in 2 weeks than Biden did in 4 years and Obama did in 8. But this isn't just about speed. This isn't just about tech. This isn't just about personnel. It's all 3, perfectly aligned. For ordinary Americans, the impact was undeniable. Roads repaired, schools revitalized, water purified. But more importantly, something else was being restored: trust. For the first time in generations, people saw their government not as an obstacle, but as a tool for positive change. The sun rises early in Washington. On this morning, its first rays caught the classical columns of the Treasury building, casting long shadows across streets still quiet. But inside, beneath the marble and granite, screens still glowed blue. DOJ's algorithms never sleep. The administrative state was built over decades, built to resist change, built to outlast presidents, built to preserve power. He paused, tracking a particularly interesting data flow. But they never imagined this. They built walls against political attacks, defenses against media exposure, shields against congressional oversight. They never prepared for algorithms that could map everything, for personnel pre-positioned everywhere, for a president who counts every week like it's his last. The numbers tell the story, in Treasury. Networks mapped, waste exposed, systems rewired. At USAID, decades of hidden flows revealed, power structures dismantled. Across agencies, redundancies eliminated, authorities realigned, missions refocused. But numbers aren't the whole story. Imagine changes coming to a community near you. Springfield, Ohio. Potholes that plagued residents for 12 years actually disappeared overnight. Rural Tennessee, where children can finally connect to high-speed internet their parents were promised decades ago. In Michigan, people truly drink clean water while bureaucrats' memos about studying the problem gather dust. This isn't just reform, this isn't just change. This is American governance reimagined. The pace is going to be the same. It's just the priorities that are going to change. The permanent bureaucracy built their administrative state over decades, brick by bureaucratic brick. They thought it would last forever. They thought it was too big to map, too complex to understand, too entrenched to change. They were wrong. 4 young coders with laptops proved that. 1,000 pre-positioned personnel proved that. A president counting weeks proved that. The sun continues rising over Washington. Classical columns still cast their shadows. But inside those buildings, everything has changed. The administrative state finally met its match preparation plus presidential will plus technological precision. This isn't the end of the story. This is just the beginning. The revolution isn't just continuing. It's becoming the new normal. And for those who thought the deep state would rule forever, they're about to learn what happens when smart strategic minds meet determination, when preparation meets opportunity, when a new generation decides it's time for change. The storm isn't just gathering, it's here to stay. The sun continues rising over Washington. But now, for the first time in generations, it illuminates something new. A government that works. A bureaucracy that serves. A system that delivers. The revolution isn't just beginning. It's already won.
It's been, what? It's been like 2 weeks? I mean, 2 weeks. I'm done. You want to talk about regretting your vote? In 2 weeks, I went from the highest high to being unemployed. Lost my job last night, got a phone call. The repercussions of what Elon Musk are doing with the USAID has real repercussions for real people. For the last 7 years, I have been a shift lead on Project Bus, where we studied to find out if the wheels on the bus went round around or not. And all of a sudden, Elon, who's not even elected, gets in, and I'm out of a job. What do I tell my family? What do I tell my kids? This isn't a joke. This USAID stuff is not a joke, man. This is affecting real people. And the worst part is, what if we never figure out? What if we never figure out if in fact the wheels on the bus do go round and round?
Did you see what Trump did? He's rounding up mostly documented migrants to send them back. Bet you regret voting for him now, huh?
No, that's pretty much why we voted him into office, really.
He's even rounding up innocent illegals who didn't even commit a crime.
Illegal immigration is definitely illegal.
But did you know that Trump has already started sending peace-loving, patriotic, undocumented foreigners back to their countries of origin? On planes? Bet you regret voting for Trump now, don't you?
Bet you regret voting Republican, huh?
I mean, now that I know this was always possible, I regret voting for every other Republican.
Oh my gosh! Mexico just denied the plane of undocumented doctors and lawyers that Trump sent over.
All right, that'll teach him.
Oh no!
Oh, never mind.
Trump is throwing undocumented better than us angel darling immigrants out of planes? Oh, you have to regret voting for him now.
You regret it yet?
You must be regretting it now.
Oh my gosh! Trump just signed an executive order to install a 50-foot tall wall around the entire country with moats full of alligators and fully automated laser turrets and razor wire at the top, and it's already finished construction!
Magnificent.
You must regret it now.
Definitely regretting your vote regretting your vote now.
Wow. All great news. Thank you, guys, for brightening my day.
I can't believe that didn't work.
Yeah, Trump specifically said they were going to get tired of winning.
Kids over 13 have the complete right to make their own decisions about their mental health care. Parents don't have a right to have notice. They don't have a right to have consent about that.
I imagine for 1 second what it's like to be a parent in this day and age. And I would probably be in jail. If somebody, anybody, let alone the government, told me that my kids are not my kids, my 13-year-old can make a choice. 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old, sorry, until you get out of my house, that's when you can make your own decisions. That's how I grew up. So, y'all better stop, you better start doing something about this. Parents, okay?
Dude, this U.S. aid thing is so much worse than people realize. Do y'all remember when people were angry at Elon Musk for buying Twitter for $40 billion? Because he could have solved world hunger with that money. Okay? Keep that same energy. Okay? We were supposed to have sent like somewhere around $200 billion to Ukraine. Remember all those little packages? Well, even Zelensky says that only about half of it even got there. So there's $100 billion that's just floating around somewhere. That could have solved world hunger. But your government was so inefficient and so corrupt, and you don't even care about it? In fact, you're more mad that we stopped U.S. aid for a minute and paused it so we can figure out what the flip all of our money's going to, bro? This is not a normal response. Your reaction is being manipulated by the media. It has to be, because you would be mad under any other circumstances. Imagine your dad left you a business that used to make you $100 a month. And now that business is losing you like $10,000 a month. You would go in and go, what's going on? And it's like pretend it's a mattress company. And you look at the expenditures and you're like, well, these aren't springs and cotton and mattress sheets and things like that. No, we're buying cement in Dubai for 10 times the price that anybody else ever paid. What's going on? And then one of the managers comes up to you and goes, hey, you're not supposed to have access to this warehouse. What are you even doing in here? You would be like, I'm getting scammed so hard, pause everything. Everybody's going to jail, bro. Meanwhile, Maui, North Carolina, and California are all burning down, and we never seem to have enough money for that. Hell, Flint, Michigan's water costs like $1.5 billion, and it would be fixed, bro. We give Ethiopia more than that every year. Then you start looking at all the politicians that have been connected to this thing, and you wonder, why are these guys yelling so much? And you look into how they're receiving their revenue. Oh, it goes out in USA, it does a little cool loop-de-loop dance, and then comes back to their families. Oh, well, Ross, if it was this bad, the news would have told us about it. Nope, because the other thing USAID is funding is all of the freaking media, bro. They are deciding what you guys think, which is why all of them have made you all think that we're the bad guys this whole time. They knew that if we won, we would see this and cut off their funding. There's a movie called The Truman Show with Jim Carrey where basically everything around him is like a controlled environment and things like that. If you found out that all of the same opinions that you've had from the media for the last 10 years were funded and created for you to have those opinions, wouldn't you pump the brakes a little bit and start thinking maybe the right-wingers aren't so bad? We voted for this so we can see all the leeches that are sucking the money out of all of our company, bro. Join the team. Speaking of leeches in your company, if you're a business owner who's making at least 6 figures, but you're not making as much as you think you should be, shoot me a DM. I would love to help you. It's probably a simple problem with your processes or how you're getting leads. Let's get you where you should be.
Where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second.
And he knows better than to be talking about the things that he does with Big Brother Puff on national television.
Another day, another resurfaced Diddy video now gone viral.
He's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives.
In fact, 2 videos with Justin Bieber bringing more heat to the rapper, who's pleading his innocence from behind bars after being charged with trafficking and racketeering.
Combs allegedly planned and controlled the performances, which he called freak-offs.
Got me a Lamborghini.
That's nice.
I haven't gotten it yet, though.
Yeah, I know. When is that coming, that Lamborghini?
He had the Lamborghini for a day or two, and he had access to the house, and he knows better than to be talking about the things that he does with Big Brother Puff on national television.
Well, apparently not.
Everything ain't for everybody.
Amid Diddy's arrest, these moments re-entering the conversation, sparking speculation the then teenage pop star may have attended those alleged freak-offs.
Where we hanging out and what we doing, we can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream, and we gonna go full crazy.
I'm going crazy.
Crazy.
Let's just go get some girls. Let's go hang out with some girls.
A man after my heart, that's what I'm talking about, kid.
As for Justin, who's now 30, a source told ET the new dad's energy is going towards wife Haley and son Jack, and he's not focused on what is going on with Diddy or the allegations against him.
He believes he's innocent. I believe he's innocent, and we're going to fight this case with all of our might until we don't have to fight any longer.
That I was just, living in this shame, living in all this sort of stuff of my past, and I wasn't able to move on.
Do you think the person that the you of then was on a path of self-destruction?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I would have, for sure, 100%. Yeah. It would have been no bueno. It was bad. I don't know if I'd be alive, for sure. It was dark, but I want to definitely tell my story so that if that resonates to anybody, that they can hopefully learn from it.
Well, for me, music comes from somewhere.
Right.
Maybe it comes from this youthful naivety and this desire to escape something. And then you get out there in front of the world, and then it comes from a place of wanting more of it.
Yeah. I mean, just think about how young I was and so impressionable. And you have everybody telling me how awesome I am at all times, and I just want people to understand, the psychology behind why I potentially could have problems in my life. So, yeah, thank you for being here and helping me tell that story. But yeah, just protecting those moments, because people take for granted encounters, and I just want to protect her, I don't want her to go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody. Yeah, if she ever needs me, I'm just a call away.
Do you realize how important the story is? Every time I have a conversation with someone who's been through this unique type of experience, I'm searching for some kind of truth that can help.
I commend you for going there and asking the tough questions and the things that people don't want to talk about, and they don't want to go there because it's revealing, and I want people to take a look at my story, and hopefully my words can make a difference.
Welcome back to Intel and Insights with Juan 07. My name is John Michael Chambers, and be sure to visit 2 websites, jennifermack.com and avail yourself to the very best in Juan-inspired MAGA material. And follow me for free at johnmichaelchambers.com. Subscribe to the channel and check out my new website that has been launched. Always a work in progress, but I think you'll like what you see. We're on the pulse of the nation as we begin to resurrect America. Thank God for that. And thank President Trump and his growing and amazing administration. Anyway, welcome back, Juan. Thanks for joining me from beautiful somewhere.
Well, I'm walking down the beach from Kona, and it is paradise. It's tourist night, Friday night, so you have a lot of people out. I noticed all the parking was full everywhere. It's actually amazing. Oh, in this post COVID period, things are turning back on again. And people are just ready to get out and, enjoy life again, be part of it all. Yahoo. Yeah. So, it's just part of the being back alive here in America again.
You bet. Post-COVID and now soon to be post the resurrection of America, thanks to President Trump. For those, this is Mr. Juan O'Savin, but you may know him as Juanito from the Nino shows. But it's the same gentleman joining us here. And so thanks for being with me. Juan, there's so much going on. Let's dive in, if you will. Sort of, obviously, we're winning, as President Trump said, wildly and madly at like warp speed on multiple fronts. And, I know all the other patriots that follow my work and so forth are really, really every day is Christmas is kind of the saying that's going around. And while that is absolutely true and certainly worth celebrating for all the work we've all done over these 10 years, at the same time, and you've mentioned this before, Juan, we can expect, sort of fierce resistance. And we see the blabbermouths, all these Democrats going berserk. But that fierce resistance and some of the distractions and disruptions that may be coming our way, is this still something of concern until we completely unplug their hands from the reins?
Well, those whom the gods would destroy, they must first villainize. And so there's a lot of work to be done to expose what's really been going on behind the scenes. With what Trump's done, he has removed a lot of the funding for the mischief that's been going on. They aren't able to just pay money to their buddies and their friends to keep them viable right now, whether it's in the media. Look, one of the revelations of the USAID disclosures is how various media outlets were getting paid for the stories they were putting out. Same thing in many other areas. It wasn't just, through USAID. It was other organizations too. So the media payoffs to New York Times, MSNBC, and many, many others have stopped. Well, who's going to pay those reporters to put out these very politicized stories? How are they going to do that? How are they going to get these stories out for free in a lot of these audiences? They're not. It's not just going to slow down. It's going to stop. And that's a big deal. Mm-hmm. A lot of the fight that we've had within the country over the last several decades, has been this captured media. And for every story that might come up, you had 50 stories coming out to muddy the waters, to make the good guy look like a bad guy and the bad guy look like a good guy. And if you remember the scene in The Godfather, where they have to go after the other mobs that are using the police to do the dirty work, and then Michael has to go kill the main mobster plus the police captain who's running that organization. And then how do you justify it? Because the police are going to come after their mob super hard. Well, they had to discredit that police captain using media reporters to talk about how he was crooked, was on the take to take the edge off. Okay. Media is a office in war, and we've been in a war, and we've been losing in that particular turf. They've gotten more let down range and stories and backup and leaks and everything else, and we just couldn't keep up. By Trump pulling the plug of supply, the money, the cash flow, and even the organizational access. Look, USAID, offices closed. Not just slowed down, not just to a trickle, stopped, dead in the water. Now, there's many other organizations that are similar to being stopped. Look at all of the executive actions and orders that Trump has done, essentially drilling holes in the foundations of the monetary supply and the personnel, the foot soldiers. They've been captured in this war and are now prisoners of war in a very literal sense. And when they are released, they're released without their weapons. They're going to have to walk home. It's a very serious situation for them. And even where they want to protest and make a big stink and stomp their feet, how long are they going to be able to stand out there and protest when they don't have money to pay the rent, to pay the house payments and the big expensive car payments on all their stuff? Why? Because not only are they cut off at these agencies, they're not going to just go get another job with another one of their friends who is in this alternative, radicalized media community or government jobs. And their spouses aren't either, because they're working as the team effort in a lot of these cases. So, in fact, all of these federal jobs where most of the federal employees are part of these leftist organizations and movements and ideals and literally branch offices for the Democratic Party, they're all being defunded, whether it's not having a job anymore or not having access to the tools of war and the media wars, etc. They're getting cut off, and even to the various agencies where they're misusing public office to support putting out leftist stories and ideals. Okay. And that's where Trump and the people behind him are being very thorough in going at all of their outlets. It's not just one small category. They've had plenty of time to game this out, and they're going for everything. This is across the board. Nobody's ever even dreamed it was possible. Plus, here's where Trump really messed him up. Everybody thought within the other side, if you will, the Democrat side, this globalista crowd, that Trump would first have to get all of his appointees into office, past Congress, before they could do anything. And then they'd have to get in their office, understand the books, understand what's going on, and then they'd start to do their actions. Trump is 3 months ahead of them. That's the moon and the stars. That 3 months, while they were getting ready for a big fight, he did a blitzkrieg.
Yes.
He came in so hard, so fast on all of these agencies, they were captured before they even knew it happened. Look, what was going to go on in the House and the Senate, and even in blocking Trump on the Jan 6 stuff and trying to claim that he couldn't take office, what happened to him was they were fighting the last war, just like France did after World War I. Trench warfare was the name of the game in World War I. Gas, rockets, horses. They were fighting trench to trench. And so after World War I, the French military and all the politicians agreed that they needed to institutionalize that warfare by building out the greatest concrete monstrosity ever conceived. A line of defense made of concrete bunkers, underground storage systems, transport systems. They could transport all the weapons of war to anywhere along this multi-hundred-mile front. And they had encampments, embankments. If cannons came, if soldiers came, gas showed up. And during the interim between World War I and World War II, France would award all the politicians. They had medals hanging so far down, it was down to their knees, for all the people that built out that bunker system. And they'd have big parades and, sing the song. The media would announce how great these generals were in building out this protection against the rest of Europe, and especially Germany. Will never be victims of the Germans again. And what happened? The technology changed. The ability to move large numbers of forces and very sophisticated troops and weapons right past the Maginot Line. All those embankments, all of that concrete structure, all of those weapons. And in fact, the Maginot Line became a prison for French troops. They were all there ready to provide a resistance, and they were trapped in their own structures. Wow. The Germans just flew past them, went around the end of them. And they were, well, they're not fighting fair. Yeah, they had a fifth column. You had a bunch of traitors inside France that had already decided that they were changing sides. The Vichy French, they lost on multiple grounds because they didn't understand how the nature of the war changed. And I would say that is the Democratic Party. That is those leftists within our government, embedded in the government of America, if you will, over many, many, many decades. And they were fighting the last war. And Trump and team decided that they were going to fight the next war. And that was take away their funding, bypass all their armaments, and go straight for the jugular, cut off their supplies. And that's exactly what they've done. Cut off their agencies where they had a toehold, defund the federal government. The thing I think that people have to kind of think about, John, is this. Jen, my wife, has been doing a lot of work on health and food, various treatments for various things. I know you went through some things yourself. One of the things that I explained to her very early on, she's been doing a lot of work on this. And I'll just use this one example as a starting place. I had a young man that I was helping, young boy, decades and decades ago. And he had asthma. He'd had it since he was very, very, very young, baby. And he couldn't exert himself much. Otherwise, he'd have huge breathing difficulties. So he had an inhaler that he kept with him all the time. And just walking upstairs, if he skipped a step and did an extra step, he might have an event where he had to have that inhaler just to get oxygen in. I took him because I'm familiar with some of that stuff. I wasn't aware of it when he showed up on the porch, but I took him to a doctor, had him looked at, and they found out, yes, he does have parasitic stages in his lungs. Nobody had ever looked at him that way. They just said it was something he had from birth and that he'd have to live with it. And he was told he could never be in a sports team. He would not be part of the physical ed during the classes to go play volleyball or stuff out in the basketball court. He could stay in the room and color. That severe. And I didn't really think that was correct. When the doctors looked at him, I asked them to look for parasitic stages in his lungs. And I've run into this many times with like our soldiers overseas that come back and have issues. So I said, let's take a look. And sure enough, he had a lot of parasites in his lungs. but nobody had ever looked for that before. Then some treatments were prescribed. We actually did something that wasn't quite what doctors would normally do to attack them, which I was aware of that treatment, and knock down those parasites within just days. Here's the kid who he would hide inhalers around the house. He actually stole inhalers a couple of times at various places because he always was afraid he wouldn't have an inhaler at the right moment when he needed it. And it affected his life to where he wouldn't take a chance that somebody wouldn't have an inhaler for him. Where he had been at, they sometimes didn't have money to buy inhalers. And it was tough for him because they didn't understand. When he can't breathe, he can't breathe. He can't function. Mm-hmm. So he had taken, had these inhalers all of this time. We got the parasites in his lungs knocked down and got him under control. And then over a period of about a month and a half, got him gone completely. And he started to come out of his shell, became a whole different person. And now all these decades later, his life is radically different. Got him a bike, he could go out and ride around, and then got bigger bikes and did all sorts of things. Was able to function like a normal kid, and really did become just a normal kid. If we hadn't addressed those parasites, it would never have been the same. And then the issue with parasites is this, especially in the lungs, for example, but it's anywhere in the body. And we find lots of diseases that are being misdiagnosed. It's parasites. But it's not just the parasites only. Parasites, think of how a parasite looks. It's like a worm, most of them. And so they have a small attachment at the mouth onto, in this case, the lung tissue. And they're feeding off the blood going by in the lung. And when they go by that, when the blood goes by, the parasite sucks in some of that blood, and that's its food. If you're moving quickly and your heart rate goes up, all of a sudden those parasites get supercharged, if you will, and they will excrete sugars out of their membrane or their skin. That's the waste from the parasites. On the body of the parasite, on the membrane of the parasite, you'll have huge blooms of bacteria. And what are the bacteria feeding on? They're feeding on those sugars. And then as they excrete their waste, what is the waste product of the bacteria? Well, the waste product is histamine. So what was this young boy breathing in? Antihistamine with his inhalers. He needed the antihistamine to stay functional, to survive, to make it through. So when he was when these parasites were sucking in the blood, getting the protein and excreting the sugars, and the bacteria were feeding on the sugars and excreting histamine. Histamine is an inflammatory, and it would cause the throat to constrict, the lungs to constrict. You couldn't function. And what you were doing with the inhalers, putting in the antihistamine to reduce the inflammation. America's body politic is like that young boy. We're infested with parasites in all different organs of the body politic. And those parasites have bacteria on them. And the sugars, the money that's feeding the parasites and feeding the bacteria is causing inflammation through the system. The American body politic is grossly distorted with all of this histamine. We're choking under it. We can't hardly breathe. We're buried under it. The taxes, the false spending, the graft, sending our life energy in other places. We're as constricted in our activities as that young boy was. Because if we exert ourselves too much as individuals, then there's plenty of parasites there to suck the life out of us and to excrete waste into the system that makes it so we can't breathe. The correction that Trump and his team are bringing for America is that we are seeing the parasites being cut off from the food supply. We're zapping them and making them go away. We're not just dealing with them. We're not just managing them anymore. Literally, in the case of this young boy, we used an electric current, a pulsing electric current, and we just zapped all those parasites in the lungs over a period of time and eventually got all of them, knocked them all out, zapped them to eternity. You think these people aren't feeling the same kind of an effect from Trump? They're getting zapped. There isn't a adaptation period for them to adapt to what biological or chemical or whatever that we might be sending their way. There's no adapting. They're just zapped to death. And when the parasites go, so do the bacteria that get all the sugars, okay? We have so many opportunists in our American society that have been living off of the waste from the parasites, the excrement from the parasites. And we get rid of the parasites, we get rid of the sugars, we get rid of the food for the bacteria. The immune system takes over, and we can be healthy very, very, very quickly as a country. Everybody thought that this was going to be a long fight. We're going to bring in antibiotics, and we're going to try to work the system and manage this illness like the healthcare system does right now today. They don't want to cure anything. They just want to manage it so they can, continue on and stay in business. We're not doing that. We're just zapping it, killing it, and moving on. And that's the beauty of what Trump and the team are doing right now.
Wow. Well, this show is maybe titled "The Master of Metaphors and Analogies Between the World War II Situation and These Parasites," and very applicable how you brought it home, Juan. And I just want to say this to our viewers: those that said there is no plan, remember, there's been a lot of narrative over these years. Don't get popcorn. There is no plan. Well, clearly there's a plan. The analogy that Juan just gave about France and how President Trump was 10 steps ahead. Of course, there's a plan. And I've always said this. Here's your pecking order of command and control. God, Trump, Q, military, white hats, and you and me, we the people, collectively, we have now arrived in decapitating, dismantling, way past exposing, although a lot of exposure is going on at a much deeper level, and neutering the deep state. And back to my original question, just a brief answer, if you will, Juan, because I want to go into some other areas. You've mentioned before on programs that you and I have had about the enemy, the resistance, may be fierce. Right now, we see a whole lot of Schumers and types just screaming their heads off. But we certainly had a lot of attacks pre-inauguration in an attempt to cause all kinds of problems like LA and different things. Do you anticipate, in the crystal ball, of course, any other attacks on the homeland of concern as we begin to destroy them? And then I want to jump into Kash Patel, the media, Gitmo, and the big arrests.
Well, they make a move, we make a move. Okay. With what Trump has done, has he eliminated the quote unquote deep state, if you will? He's sure taken a bite out of them. But just like with the young man that I was talking about, we made huge progress. Within the first day, he said he could breathe better. Within the first week, oh my gosh, it seemed like it was just night and day. He'd never been able his whole life to breathe like that, because in his particular case, where he was raised, they had a bunch of cats, and the cats have parasites. Birds have lots of parasites. They had birds too. And so he probably, as a very young man, was exposed to and overloaded with these parasites from the time he was a baby. And they just got embedded and they weren't going away. And they're there forever. So, because nothing was being done to stop them. And no opposition. But when we first took out those first bits, a lot of them still had eggs there. There was other folds in the lungs that might not have been exposed. And so it took time to get deeper and get everything out. And then other organs. There was other issues. This young boy, he had a bedwetting issue. Well, that actually also was related probably to a parasitic infection in the bladder. And so we addressed all those things. It only took about a month and a half, and he was an entirely new person. And think about how your life is controlled by what happened. The things that were happening to him, it was changing everything about the way he could live, function, express himself, have interests, etc. He couldn't do any of those things. So he had to have some kind of intervention like this that allowed him the luxury of just living even a little bit normal. Once the parasites were cleared, he had to relearn life itself and it didn't take long, because all the things that he couldn't do, including just riding around on a bike, where he'd, be out of breath, couldn't function. Now he had that option. So he had to relearn how he was going to live his life. America is going to have to relearn how to live its life as we get rid of all of these parasitic entities that are sucking the life out of the American body politic. And the money that we don't have to do our own private education for our kids, to both parents have to work to death, as opposed to maybe one parent getting to be able to take time with the kids and raise them and the other parent do the work. Both sides have to work, and then the kids go and get raised by somebody else because it's all daycare. We're going to relearn what it means to be an American, how to live life as an American. And that's the beauty of these next moments that are just ahead for us, but not immediately ahead. The challenges are going to be when you're killing parasites, you can also have what we call a Herxheimer reaction. As the parasites die, as the bacteria die, they release toxins, and those toxins can cause a harsh reaction in the body, and some nausea, cramping. You're not comfortable. And these parasites on the body politic here in America are going to leave us probably with a bit of a Herxheimer reaction, because they are so toxic. We'll live, we'll get through it, but it's not going to be comfortable. And then beyond even the Herxheimer reaction, and every metaphor that you use, you can't get too tied up into it. It's kind of a little bit gives you something to have a picture of, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a perfect correlation to what exactly is going to happen. I still believe out here we have a near-death experience for America that's looming. Some cataclysmic confrontation along the lines of the Cuban Missile Crisis, this moment where everybody has to take a deep breath, but by the grace of God, do we get through this moment? And on the far side of that, there's also this need. Imagine President Trump. He had a belief in God. He had some certain kind of faith. He's talked about that, but, somewhat private, a little bit expressive here and there, raised around certain things. His Bible that came from his aunts there in the Oval Office. He's not a-religious. He had certain beliefs. But when the bullet pierced his ear, which has biblical resonance too, with the ear piercing of that type, which was done for slaves deciding that they are going to serve and stay with the master, even though they paid their price, they can be freed. And how close he came, probably literally a half an inch from having the back of his skull blown off, seriously injured or dead. Even in a best case scenario, was just that extra little twist of his head that saved his life. He said numerous times that he believed that God saved him for a reason to do the things that he has out ahead of him, that he came that close. And there's a certain symbology there with this leader of the country that I think is also there for us as the rest of the citizenry. There's yet an event ahead for us that, but by the grace of God, we wouldn't get past or through. And on the far side of that, a sense of recommitment, a sense of urgency and recommitment to have some penitence, to reconcile ourselves with our Creator, and to have some kind of a resurgence, a rebirth through this near-death experience. Trump has said that he believes he was saved to make America great again, to bring it back to its roots, which was a country dedicated in service to our Father in heaven, where freedom reigns and where the labors of the individuals are retained by them, not given away or sapped off of them and given to others through fraud. And where we own the fruits of our labors. We as a people are about to go through something similar to what Trump went through. And that was symbolic for all the rest of us. And I believe there's going to be a rededication, a rebirth of a spirituality here in America, a tent meeting mentality where we come together as a people, recognizing that we as a people survive these near-death experiences and this one monster yet ahead, but by the grace of God. And so repentance and rededication of us as a country to the purposes that the country was founded on. And on the far side of all that, when you have justice in the land, and the people who did these injustices to us, who were tried to enslave America and the vote through the COVID scam, to enslave America through the Green Deal scam, to hand us over to a bunch of globalists. One of the things that Trump did the other day that virtually nobody caught, he revoked a banking agreement within the Federal Reserve and the Treasury with international banking interests, international treaty, that the banks would only loan money based on compliance of borrowers with green policies, global green policies and objectives, including, for example, like with cars. If a bank was loaning money on cars, a certain percentage of their loans on cars had to be for electric vehicles and not just hybrid electric, which you'd only get a portion of the write-off. So if a bank was loaning too much money on trucks and, sports cars and stuff like that, they'd have to give a good deal. They might even have to pay people a discount in order to comply with this global agreement about only funding cars that were green according to these Paris Accords and things like that. Trump just said, yeah, done, not happening. No bank complies with this. Because in the aggregate, GMAC, for example, with GM products, would have had to loan on electric cars and to weight their loans every year from now till 2030 towards electric cars and away from the gas vehicles and lower mileage vehicles. Well, if you have a farm You're not farming and moving stuff around out in flyover country with an electric rig. You might do it for just running around the neighborhood and stuff like that. But if you gotta run hay, feed horses, go do other stuff, you're not doing that with an electric vehicle. Not by weight, not by terrain, anything. It just plain was foolishness. But there was no acknowledgement of the constraints of normal farming needs, just like up in Northern Europe. They're forcing farmers to get rid of their gas-powered tractors and go to electric-powered tractors that don't work. It's insanity. It's foolishness. You've got to be unable to function practicably to meet their political demands. Well, somebody's going to have to build a tractor that will work, or you're just not going to farm anymore. Well, what's happening is the farmers can't afford it. They can't charge enough for it, and they're being forced on their backs to just comply. The same thing was going to happen here with the banks, even to backing eventually farm equipment and other stuff. Trump just said, "Yeah, done, not happening, over." And this silliness that was being forced on us is being put aside. We're going back to sanity, to practicality, and not playing along with this globalist foolishness any further, which was actually aimed at making America dysfunctional, but wasn't being imposed in the same way, for example, on China or other groups that fit these globalist agendas. Oh, China will comply in 50 years, but America needs to comply right now. You know.
Right.
So anyway, I don't know if that answered your question, but you get me started, and I go off in different directions. So
no problem. It's all good, Juan. Thank you. I just want to throw a comment in, and then I want to ask a question about Kash Patel. The comment is, you started off talking about what President Trump has gone through since God saved his life, as Trump mentioned, and that process, and then the American people going through a process. What I see happening is, while certainly over the last 10 years, we in the new media, the keyboard warriors, the digital soldiers, the podcasters, us, and so forth and so on, we've done our job to the best of our ability, many of us, in putting out and digging down the rabbit holes and putting out the truth and fighting it in that way. And that in part has been part of our job. And by and large, we've done a good job. And we've woken the people up to the point where we can seemingly, at least to this, not seemingly, for sure to this point, have avoided this civil war. And it certainly seems like that will continue to be avoided. Civil unrest, different situation. But my point here is, what's happening now, like mission accomplished in terms of waking up the folks enough. Right now, due to the nature of the reveals now are coming straight, transparent, straight from the horse's mouth. Musk, Trump, Bobby Kennedy, Holman at the border, Pam Bondi, and we're going to talk about Kash in a minute. It's unbelievable. So what I see happening is the rest of the folks that we didn't wake up yet, they're waking up. And I understand the lunatics. I'm not talking about them, the hardcore problematic issues. God will deal with them later. He'll deal with God. But I think we still have a mass awakening. I think of people are popping their heads up right now as the reveals are happening with Musk and all the work that we're doing. They can't hide anymore. And we've gaining control over the media narrative hugely. And I see some great momentum happening just by natural default. Whether our neighbors and friends want to tell us or not doesn't really matter at this point. I think that they're coming aboard, and I think that that's a wonderful thing, especially in the frequency world, if you will.
Let me give another example. I had a friend. Both he and his wife, separate incidences, both had the same experience, and we traced it back actually to a military activity nearby that caused them both to have a similar experience. But what happened was, my friend had something happen in his brain where he ended up with an aneurysm, and they had to put him asleep. And they told him it was going to be for just a day or two. When he finally woke up, almost 60 days later, he lost 35 pounds. This was a very physical, robust person doing car work and like that. And he didn't actually have 35 pounds to lose because he was in very good trim shape. As he was waking up, people had been over to visit him, see him, and I'd visit him periodically, but as fate had it, I was there as he came out of this coma. They had self-induced, or they had induced it initially and done some work, operation on him, but then he didn't come out of the coma like he was supposed to when they started to remove the drugs. And here, almost 60 days later, I'm talking to him. He's dead out, and I see an eyeball, kind of flicker and move around. And it was like he was just barely there. And I got nurses to come over, and they acknowledged, yeah, it looks like he may be waking up. And I continued to talk to him. And when he later described that, and he got all the way up to where he realized I was there, and his wife came and arrived about 4 hours later. And by then he was actually had already spoken a word or two or tried. His body had atrophied because the muscles hadn't been working. And even with physical therapy coming in, trying to move his arms and legs and keep him going, his wife rubbing his feet and things like that, he hadn't really returned. When you talk to him later about that time period, he knew someone was in the room. He didn't really recognize it was me at first. And then as time went on, he realized it was me. And then he was asking where his wife was. He didn't know what had happened. He didn't know if he'd been in a car accident, motorcycle accident, something else. And he was trying to get his bearings of what had just happened and how long he'd been out. And it took him literally a couple of days to get his mental bearings again. Some people come out of a coma different than others. In his wife's case, when she was wheeled in, she had already had some kind of a brain event. And as she was being wheeled into the emergency room, off to the side, there was a children's play area. And it had some oversized mushrooms, which when you're on a stretcher low, they looked huge. And she's under some kind of a mental thing. She equated it with being on drugs, even though she was actually having a brain aneurysm and it was leaking. So she was out also for a very long period of time. I think about 50 some odd days in her case. And as she was coming, I take it back to about 38 days. When she was coming out, and as fate would have it, I was there when she was coming out. It was, just luck of the draw. Others had been there like that. And I just popped by to visit and say something. And this was about 10 years apart on these two events. And as she was coming out, she was talking about needing more of those shrooms. Well, when she was a youngster, they had eaten mushrooms and gone on trips and like that. And she'd become Christian over the years and changed that. But she equated the whole event with she had gone on a mushroom inspired trip. And she was talking about how she needed to get back out there and get some more of that mushroom. And she's describing the mushroom, and it's just huge. This thing is huge. And it's right outside that door. And I got to get over there. I got to get some more of that because she's, essentially coming off of some type of a high in her brain or whatever. And it was all disconnected from reality. Her brain was playing tricks on her, just like his brain didn't wake up immediately. The body politic, the American people have been in some type of a hallucinogenic moment with false media. Everything tapped them out, parasites through the whole body politic. They've become dysfunctional. As they come out of this haze, how they see events, how they understand them is going to be a little different for everybody. I just spoke at length on a show with one of the J6ers. He's been in jail for almost 4 years. He just got out the other day. his knowledge of what's been going on has come through a filter by his attorney and from other prisoners. He never had one visitor allowed to see him the entire time he was in prison, 4 years. His wife never talked to him or spoke to him during all that time. They had him cut off, just a couple brief calls. Why is that important? His understanding of what's been going on on the outside and the various people is not, precise, and it's through a glass darkly. And he'll get better. He'll understand it more over the next days and weeks and months. But imagine trying to come up to speed on 4 years of things that happen in just a few days or weeks or months. You can't even get the flavor of it really that quickly. The rest of his life, he'll still be learning about things while he was disconnected. That happened. That person was that person, whatever. He was in his own world. Okay. And it wasn't the world with the reality that you and I have known during all this time. So we have to be patient for somebody to come through all of that, make sense of it, within their understanding. How many Americans actually really were paying attention to what happened with the J6 stuff? How many Americans just believed what the media said about Afghanistan and the pullout, or certain government programs and stories that the media put out there? And then they find out, well, they were getting money from USAID to cook stories over at New York Times and 100 other media outlets, and that there was an attack on Trump from inside of USAID and other media organizations to get him charged with, and impeached. Okay. And then they learned the truth of who those players were and what the story was. A lot of people, they'll never believe it. When I talk about the mushroom with the friend, she says, look, I know that that's not a real mushroom. I know that that was an illusion in my mind, but she says she still has moments where she can taste the mushroom in her mouth. And she just knows, like if she goes back to that hospital, if she goes around the corner, the mushroom is still there. She could just go over and grab a chunk of that mushroom and go on another trip. And as crazy as that sounds, and she'd be the first one to tell you, but I still believe it's so imprinted in my mind. It's so real because of what had happened inside of her brain in that whole series of events, that it's absolutely real to her. And she can't quite disconnect her mind from that perceived reality, even though she's walked there, she's looked at it, she's felt it. In her imagination, it somehow is still real. There will be some of that societally within, the body politic, the public, that will never change. Their perception of who Trump was, they just won't be able to go there in their mind. And, it's just like you could take the Egyptians, the people of Israel out of Egypt, but you couldn't necessarily take the Egypt out of the people that left in the Exodus. Some of it was imprinted in their heart, and that's why that generation died in the desert. And it was only those that were 20 years and younger when they left Egypt that were allowed to go into the promised land, other than Joshua and Caleb. So will we, as a people, as a society, be able to understand there's a certain component of the people around us that we will not be able to get out of a certain mindset, even though we try to explain it to them as best we can. They get to see and touch and see what's happening. They won't be able to leave that.
Mm-hmm. Understood. That's where the surround yourself with people who understand the times in which we live and expand those circles comes into play, so we don't live such a lonely life as these people wake up to varying degrees. Juan, I want to talk about Kash Patel for a moment. We have Elon Musk getting things done. We've got Pam Bondi just coming out and taking no prisoners. We've got Holman at the border cleaning up the slop. And we've got Bobby Kennedy going after Big Pharma and more. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, but some pretty big names doing some pretty big things. Cash Patel hasn't been approved yet, as far as I know. Here it is, folks. I'm in Southeast Asia on an island. It's Saturday, February 8th at 12:45 p.m. here. The Cash not being approved yet. Do you see him ultimately getting approved? I think we absolutely have to have Cash Patel as the FBI director, and that is big, big, big good news in my mind. Do you see any problem of him getting passed through?
Well, you can do a recess appointment. There's all sorts of things that can happen. Let me come at it from a couple different directions. Number one, if anybody thinks that Trump is going to wuss out or, okay, I'll bring somebody else or whatever, no, he won't just double down, he'll quadruple down. If you think that he's going to settle for being throttled at this exact moment, any senators that want to cause him grief, they've got all their little committee favorites. They've got things they want to do. The hammer, the nail that sticks up will get hammered down. And Trump's showing up not with just another hammer. He's coming up with a sledgehammer. He's been working out. He's lean. He's trim. He's ready to go. He's ready to wield a hammer of Thor on anybody who's going to try and block what he believes he is doing by divine ordination. Okay. God himself has ordained him on a mission, and he's going to fulfill that mission. Cash, I was a little distressed. He didn't know who Tina Peters is. He was so deeply within the stuff that he was looking at from agency protocols and mechanisms and all that. And he was a bit disconnected from some of the other things. I don't know how you can not know who Tina Peters is and her role within the election integrity stuff. But the other side of the coin is, let me say this to his credit, he has been meeting with, studying, and working the mechanical issues within the function of the FBI to the exclusion of almost everything else. He's been preparing for this moment, not just for months, but for years, including the relationships with the various people that needed to be done. So if he didn't know all the minutia or wasn't just wired into some of these side conversations, I'll give him a pass. Because if you heard his testimony over the last couple of weeks in getting through the confirmation hearings, he's very aware of a lot of things that are going on that need to be addressed functionally, technically inside the FBI. And some of these other issues will get dealt with probably at other places. It's not the FBI necessarily that's going to be the one that intercedes on the Tina Peters case. It's going to be within the Justice Department and other stuff. So I would have liked that he knew a little bit more about it. But
I'm sure he knows now.
Well, he does now. Yes, he does now. And by the way, tomorrow, by the time you get this up and posted, it'll be in the rearview mirror. But tomorrow is Tina Peters Day, February 8th, 2025. And, we need to free Tina. She is the heroine in this whole thing. Of all the people, including the J6ers, she's the ultimate heroine who was attacked personally, individually, related to the election integrity stuff. And there's a lot going on there. It's a bigger conversation, but she needs to be freed. She's 70 years old. She didn't do anything wrong. She was obeying federal law and directives. And there's no just world wherein Tina Peters should be in jail right now and needs to be. There's certain things that I know have been filed even in the last few hours that I won't go into the minutia because I was asked not to. But I think we're going to get her out shortly, but that needs to happen. And it'll happen from a direction different from, say the FBI or something. So anyway, what's the next question?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. And obviously, Tina Peters needs to be free, and with you on it and others, I'm sure that's going to happen. and it needs to happen. As far as moving on, a couple of more things before we wrap up, and I appreciate your time. The pardons, we had these slew of ridiculous, obscene, absurd, unjust, and crazy pardons done as the imposter exited the Oval Office. Having said that, punch some holes in that. What's happening right now, and will those pardons stand? We see President Trump stripping security clearances away from Barack Obama, from many, many people, General Milley, and
by the way,
and Biden himself.
They stripped President Trump of his security clearances in 2021 as Biden came into office. So they set the precedence. Trump just carried through with them now that he's in. And by the way, it's not just Biden. The 51 intelligence officers who signed on to say that the Hunter Biden laptop, that whole story was bogus and there was a Russian disinformation plot, that all of the pictures and communications and everything else on Hunter Biden's laptop, that was the Russians that created that, and we should look another way coming up on the 2020 election. And so that was not in the equation for the American people. In fact, it was Brennan and a handful of others that worked together to undermine any discussion of the laptop before the debate between Biden and Trump in 2020. It was a ploy, a ruse, a falsehood. All of those officers have had their security clearances removed and, in fact, are obstructed for life from entering any federal building.
Yeah, nice. I remember, Juan, a year ago.
Unless they're under arrest unless they're under arrest or responding to a federal subpoena.
Welcome aboard under those terms. I remember a year ago almost, I think it was March of last year, because I was on the island of Koh Samui and we did a show, and you railed against those 51 FBI agents on the laptop issue.
Well, it wasn't just FBI, it was intelligence officers out of the CIA, the military, other places. But yeah, go ahead.
Gotcha. Yeah, and here it is, the boomerang effect coming home to roost. Okay, so the bulk of the high-level pardons, if you want to phrase it that way, that were done, long and short, and I know there's a lot of detail that we go through on a one-on-one basis, but long and short, they're not going to stand. Is that accurate? And for a host of reasons.
Well, those pardons are based on Biden being a legitimate president. As we get into what's coming, and by the way, I've talked to your audience before about this. The people that have come aboard to provide firsthand witness information of their own activities and others around them, as well as some of the equipment and contacts involved in stealing the 2020 vote. Those persons are going to provide, in a legal setting, their information in such a way that it will show that Biden was placed in office through the effort of foreign nation states and their intelligence officers with the highest level of approval in those nation states, including China, Cuba, Serbia, Venezuela, and other locations. So when that is shown and proven that the Biden presidency was through a falsehood, at a point down the road, there will be an action in Congress to impeach the Biden presidency because he was there through fraud. We were attacked. It's an act of war to undermine the election of another country by international law. And when the Biden presidency is impeached, all the way back to the beginning, including his vice presidency, then all of the actions that he was involved in will be negated. And that's part of what's coming. But you'll also impeach the Obama presidency, most likely impeach the Bush presidency, Bush 2, and the attack is on even to go into the Clinton presidency for the same reasons. So we may not get there, but there certainly will be other actions that are involved that I think we will get there. And with all of that in mind, those people that think they have a pardon may want to be looking over their shoulder a little bit. The second thing is this. For example, with Dr. Fauci, I mentioned, I think even on your show, but several other shows, that even several years ago, that before this was over, most likely Russia would ask for, and as part of any reconciliation with Russia over the Ukraine thing, remember, what was the first place that the Russians went to in Ukraine when they invaded Ukraine? They went out to the 54 biolabs, shut them down, took the paperwork, disabled them, and made them so they weren't an ongoing threat. Why? Because the bioweapons that were being developed and perfected there were aimed at the Slavic or Russian people. They were literally looking for people in Ukraine who had Russian heritage but were living in Ukraine, kids who were soldiers, etc., and testing bioweapons on them to find out if they could precisely target the Russian people, but not other people from other countries in the region. A genetically targeted weapon, like a James Bond movie. Think about it. So when Russia comes to this parade, it'll be like what we're doing at Gitmo and a handful of other sites. It's not just Gitmo, by the way. We will see prosecutions in these world court arenas for war crimes. But one of the things that Russia will ask for, even demand in any resolution with the United States out into the future, is that we hand over Fauci and some of the other people involved in allowing those activities that the Russia or the Ukraine biolabs, of which Hunter Biden was on the board of the companies too, for prosecution at the Donbass. Russia has said that before this is all over, they're going to have trials in the Donbass that are like what happened after World War II, just like America is going to have them at Gitmo and other locations after World War II. So Nuremberg type trials. Well, Russia has already asked for the U.S. to turn over Fauci to them. So if Fauci gets a pardon, does that pardon apply over in Russia for the actions that he was involved in getting those biolabs up and running? Russia has enough evidence from what they've done to go into a world court, charge Fauci themselves, and put him in prison there. So that pardon by Biden, okay, well, I'd leave it stand for the moment, but hand him over to Russia. Let them try him with what they have. See how that life goes from that point forward. And I predicted that years ago.
Yeah. Yes. Well, it's all happening, and it's all good news. Justice is happening and accelerating. You know, you've been singing 2020, It Ain't Over Yet, and you've just a few moments ago showed us how that's going to get handled through the Gitmo Revelations, which
well,
leads
let me sing a few bars for you.
Go ahead, bring it on.
It's not over yet.
There you have it. There you have it. You know, I'm glad we put that down because a lot of people are saying, hey, what happened to 2020? Well, I'm saying this and that. Well, there you have it, folks. Stick around.
It's not over. It's not over.
The show's not over. The credits aren't running yet.
Well, let me just say this. If anybody wants to ask a question on that and question whether or not I'm right on that, look, as these engineers who engineered the theft in 2020, they are now safely ensconced in safe positions inside the U.S. Okay, U.S. control, I should say, and so this has taken on a whole different life. It's no longer private parties ensuring their safety and that they get nice food and clothes every day. Okay, they're very safely within U.S. custody at this point in time, and so their testimony will be available when the time comes to explain what happened in 2020. And the reason 2020 is so important, I mean, I don't know why anybody would think that we're not going to go there. Of course, we're going there. They stole the presidency of the United States.
That's right.
In an act of war, in the way that the election was captured and stolen. So we have to address that. You cannot walk away from that. You had 4 years of lost life in the country. That's why Trump has this mandate to go in and take them all down, okay? Defund them, because we've got information on how they operated. This last 4 years, we've gathered more and more and more intelligence on all of their operations to, operate inside the U.S. government with impunity, funding each other, stealing things to their own tribe. And so that's going to end now. And it is ending right this second. And then the investigations into the accounts, the books, the records over the last many years to show exactly who was the beneficiary, who signed the authorizations, which accounts it went through. When the money did get to certain organizations, who then got paid in the down line and what agreements existed to make that happen. So, I'm sorry, got a bit of a loud car coming by.
Hey, Juan, I want to wrap up with two questions, and this has been a great episode, and I appreciate the discussion. Let's talk about the big arrest for a moment. You spoke a while back about that, to expect that at some point, perhaps in the first 6 months of this year or something of the sort. I'm going to step away. I've got to handle something for 1 second, but I'm listening. Please talk with us about the big arrest that Q spoke about and that the Patriot Movement is waiting for. Weigh in on that subject. I'm here, and I'll come off camera, but I'll be right back. Please continue.
All right. Well, you can't have secret arrests and trials and have justice. Part of the cure, part of the reparative process in America is that justice is served. It's done, but in a public way, because that's part of stopping others from ever considering doing it again out into the future. And they have to see how the justice is done, that this isn't a lynching. It's not a vengeance. Justice isn't vengeance, it's justice. And so we will work the process and show, proper stern-faced resolve in getting to making America work correctly again. That some people think what Trump's doing and the people around him, what they're doing is vengeance, which, by the way, was one of the questions was asked to Kash Patel. When you get in there at the FBI, are you going to be there to get vengeance for Trump? No. Justice isn't vengeance. And we're going to get to right operation, right the ship of state, steer us away from the rocks, take control. These pirates have pirated control of the ship of state of the United States of America. We're going to, get proper function back. And by the way, part of what Trump's doing is that the bridge is cluttered with too many people. He's weeding it down to a necessary crew to run the ship of state. And all of these hangers-on, all of these various people that are in places where they're just muddying up the operations and costing money in the meantime, that's about to get stopped. And that's what we're seeing, defunding the deep state. taking away their authority to even be in the room. Okay, that's what
Yep.
Trump's doing.
Beautiful. People ask me oftentimes in social media and different places, who do I think will be the first big arrest? And only God knows. Perhaps President Trump. I certainly don't know.
Oh no,
But
Trump knows.
yeah, I'm sure he does. I'm hopeful that it's
Uh,
HRC or BHO. To be quite honest with
well,
you.
let me
But you
say
know
this:
what?
the first
Just
arrest
pluck
would
it from
rock
the
the
A
world.
list. Go ahead.
The first arrest would shock the world, which was Trump, and I people that,
That's right.
and they were like, "What? I said, "No, you're looking in the wrong place." But in the reverse, in the corrective side, head to head, Hillary's right there. Okay,
Beautiful.
and
Yeah.
it's not, and it's a whole pack of them. And some of them may seek to end their own life. And the only thing I would say there is none of us are asking or looking for that. Hell is a horror. And in fact, I've told the story many times of the gal that had a near-death experience and she went to hell. She was a drug user. Wasn't the worst person in the world ever in history or something. She just was a person with a drug addiction. But when she got there, and she was escorted into this place where she was going to be forever, and she saw all these things, and was brought back out because she had never gone to church or had any church experience, except for one little stint when she was a young girl. A neighbor girl invited her to go to vacation Bible school, a little summer thing for 2 weeks in the summer, and she remembered learning one song while she was there. And it was Jesus Loves Me, This I Know. And so she cried out from the depths of hell. She knew just as these dark entities were about to lock the chains on her leg and she would be locked into that place forever, she prayed, Jesus, save me. Okay. And all of a sudden, here comes an angel. And I believe she said it was Michael, who came and broke that chain away and took her to safety. It was like just the tiniest light in the distance, and then bang, he was there. And when she was relating the experience after the fact, she said that hell was so horrid, so unbelievably horrid, that it was only made for Satan and his angels, okay? All of those wicked, evil creatures. But it wasn't made for humans. And it was so bad, she said, you wouldn't wish hell even on your worst enemy, even on the worst person who had ever lived, even on the worst Hitler. You wouldn't wish hell on them. It was that bad. And in Enoch, in the book of Enoch, it says that the two angels, Raphael and Uriel, who escorted some of the fallen angels and threw them into hell, when they looked upon the scene before them with these dark angels that were in hell's fire, in the book of Enoch, it says that Raphael and Uriel had to look away. They couldn't even bear to look. They were so shocked at how horrid the situation was there. But as great as heaven is, hell is an opposite. So then I come back to some of these people that have done these horrors to America, who have sold their soul to the devil. We want justice. We will have justice. But at a personal level, while there's life, while there's breath, even if they've sold their souls to the devil himself, there may yet be some repentance, thief on the cross moment. I don't wish hell on any of them. They've wished it on themselves. I say a prayer that they would somehow, repent. But the consequences of their actions in this world are not to be forgiven. Things that they have done warrant hanging, warrant death. And in fact, we will have treasonous traitors who have cost American lives, who've sold out for $1. They will pay the price, and it will be the death penalty. And you're about to see that. It will happen here in America. And the American public on the whole is going to be in agreement with it, because these people have caused the deaths, not just of another American, but in many cases, not just hundreds, but thousands and thousands of people around the world, each one of them carrying that weight of guilt in their soul and their life. They're smart. They'll make their peace with God, but we will send them go meet God personally, one way or the other, in the course of what's about to happen.
Well, thank you, Juan. We're going to end the show on that note. And I want to just remind everyone some of the highlights, and there are many in this broadcast. Stay alert. That near-death experience is, believe it or not, coming. Hasn't hit yet. And also, of course, we're going to win, and we'll have the big block parties later. And Juan, I want to talk with you in the next episode in detail. We'll launch into it about the changing landscape of information under this administration, the changing landscape in the podcaster and old legacy media world, and the new media information that may be launching from Gitmo that you've talked about before. But we'll sign off here. Thanks a lot, Juan, for your time, your insights, your metaphors, and great information to help keep us all united and grounded through the remaining trials and tribulations that we have. But boy, are we celebrating in our hearts, because we have got our commander-in-chief in office officially. We have, I like to talk about March 4th next time as well. But anyway, I'll just sign off because we can go on and on. Thank you, Juan, for your time. Stay safe there. And let's catch up in the next 10 days if that's possible with our schedules. I'd love to have another episode or two with you in the month of February if we can pull that off. So thank you, Juan.
All right. Beautiful. Look forward to it.
Beautiful. All right, folks, signing off. Be sure to visit thejennifermack.com and avail yourself again to the Juan-inspired Best of MAGA material, thejennifermack.com, and sign up for free. Follow my work at johnmichaelchambers.com. Every Friday, you'll receive JMC Unplugged, things I say there that I'm not necessarily saying on my broadcast, a little back-end insights. So follow our work, and thank you all, Patriots, for the great work we've done. But the battle is not over. John Michael Chambers signing off. We are at war, and we must unite in truth. Subscribe for free at johnmichaelchambers.com for my monthly communique, which includes alerts, warnings, announcements, and access to my most valuable resource network to help you to navigate this storm. With your free subscription, you will also receive a digital copy of one of my books, Trump and the Resurrection of America, an Amazon 5-star rated book and 6-star rated by the late Robert David Steele. Won't you join me as we take our country back and redirect humanity on this much-needed course correction? Remain informed, empowered, and connected, and subscribe today at johnmichaelchambers.com.
Hi, my name is Chuck Swindoll, and I wrote this. And before we get going, I just wanted to mention to everyone the reason why I did this. I think a lot of people really wonder why these people act like this, why these people sacrifice children, why they are all pedophiles, why they worship a demon, basically. And I think that there's a lot of people that are not okay with just the answer of, well, they're just sick, or, well, they're just psychologically deranged, which they are. And I wanted to present some substance to what they're doing and why they're doing it, because there is a real biology behind this. There is a real science behind this that they are taking advantage of. There's a real understanding, a fundamental understanding of human beings at every level, body, mind, and spirit. And these people have capitalized on the information that they have had for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. These, I mean, I'm going to get into it here, but these slides are going to help folks understand just how pernicious these people are. Ruthless. They are ruthless hunters. And they are completely self-consumed. I mean, totally self-consumed. And there's no saving these folks. These folks are dyed-to-the-wool Luciferian Satanists. They have completely given themselves to this cult. And there's no turning back, and they never will stop. And so the best thing we can do as human beings is we can educate ourselves as to what they're doing and why they're doing it. Because you've got to understand and know your enemy if you're ever going to overcome or defeat your enemy. You absolutely have to understand them fundamentally. And so, because I never see this kind of information on the internet except in just sporadic pockets that I've been looking through for years and years now, I thought if I could put it all together in a way that I understand it, maybe it'll help a lot of folks. And the best thing I think everyone can do is just take the whole of what I've written here and just consider it. And that, I guess, is a good place to start with this warning. This recording isn't for kids. This recording, this is going to frighten children, and it's going to really challenge. It's going to have some challenging words in it. So there's no gory pictures or anything like that. It's really difficult words to hear, and it's not for kids. Okay, so the slide content is here. I'm not going to read every one of these. The reason why I put those there was that if some of this stuff gets too heavy or gets just over the line for you, just skip to the next slide. This isn't a book. I didn't make this like you would make a wall or learn math. It's not one thing builds upon the other. You can actually read these slides individually, and they pretty much stand on their own. Now, I've grouped the ones that are of similar content together, obviously, and so those are the ones that are a number of different slides, but then there's also a number of them that are just a single slide that will hold its own. So if there's anything that you just can't tolerate reading or just is too much for you, especially when we get into the 20s, just skip to the next one, because there's some really good information about the biology of ritual murder and then the appropriate human response, which I think is applicable to anyone, no matter what you believe, and no matter what, if you're a human being and don't like killing and murdering and hunting down children, you would go along with the kind of thing I'm going to say at the end of this. Slide 1. The purpose of this essay is threefold and strewn throughout this document. 1. Expose the Luciferian cult, the science and biology behind its human sacrifice rituals, and the psychology which drives them. 2. Expose how Luciferians have influenced the West since the beginning, and how that relates to number 1. 3. Offer a self-responsible, internally driven response to rid of these parasites and the red herrings they have foisted upon humanity. Slide 2. Life eats life on this planet. That's the way it works around here. Trees grow greenest at the cemetery. The slowest gazelle is caught first and feeds the lion cub. The forest fire brings forth new growth. The death becoming life reciprocal is one of the most difficult truths to accept in all of nature. We are natural, conscious creatures, so we are aware both life and death is within us. Yin, yang. This raw aspect of ourselves must be accorded, or it will become a source of anxiety, and the mind will become vulnerable to false impressions. This essay is a study of Leviathan, the master of false impressions, and the people who worship it. And I'll just make mention before I go to slide 3, that middle sentence there, or a few sentences, there's a great DVD by Dr. Joseph Campbell called Mythos. It's a DVD set. And he really helps folks come into accord with this life and death principle that we have within us. Dr. Campbell does an outstanding job of helping people come into accord with that without having to believe anything, but just through your own innate understanding. Okay, slide 3. There is much concern these days about Luciferianism and child sacrifice due to the emerging discoveries of this heinous activity rife within the ranks of global banking, political leadership, and the Vatican. All realms of power on earth take part. It's time we dissect this human-consuming belief system before the Luciferians take over the planet, and with them, human potential. Ask yourself, was it really a fruit Adam and Eve ate that day in Eden? Or is the story referencing something much deeper in the human psyche? Further, is the version of Eden taught to you the actual story, or is it a red herring? The Luciferians have their version of Eden, and I've never heard it put exactly like I do, because I have not heard or read a person yet who has connected the dots like I have. So maybe my thoughts about this stuff will act as a serendipitous, disenchanting agent for our planetary plight. I'll say this. Hearing the Luciferian version of Eden for me was in fact an experience of Satori. It clarified their lies, it connected the dots, and most importantly, it helped to explain their extremely anti-human motivations and behaviors throughout history and even today. Slide 5. Luciferians have run the world since organized human history began. They have been steering and shaping the planetary cultural vector since long before the United States, Rome, or even the Egyptians. This cult goes way back. It's also known as the Old Religion. They have maintained direct contact with a fourth-dimensional being known as Lucifer for thousands of years. Lucifer is a parasitic, genderless phantasmagoria. It has been anthropomorphized into human recognizable forms and names throughout time, and all over the world. It, and a legion of other fourth-dimensional beings like it, have been pilfering the human race since the beginning. Luciferians communicate directly with Lucifer through the ritual practice of child sacrifice. This practice to evoke and convene with Leviathan originated in the cult of Baal. Baal is just a name for Leviathan or Lucifer or Moloch. These are all referencing the same energy. The cult of Baal, which is the oldest cult ever established on this planet, is the ancient precursor to Luciferianism. Luciferianism, I personally consider simply a formalized and highly organized cult of Baal. Slide 6. Luciferianism is both a religion and a bloodline. Satanism is a lower echelon of Luciferianism for those outside the bloodline and wealth prerequisites to qualify as a true Luciferian. Money can buy you into the Luciferian cult, but only bloodline accesses leadership. The highest ranks in the Luciferian cult are not voted in. They are bestowed rank through female genetic lineage carefully steered by the cult through select breeding within the blue blood family lines. Like a king's executive rulership is bestowed to his firstborn son. It's a similar idea in Luciferianism, but like the Jews, it's the female who carries the genetic that counts. Luciferians involve 13 plus one hidden royal bloodline families. Instead of just one family ruling like an imperialist, kingly monarchy, Luciferians have many at the top, so it's a bit more complicated and integrates many more ranking members. There is much disagreement and infighting and personal agenda between the families, but they all follow a singular agenda, and that is to control and rule the planet. Here's a list of the families. You're going to recognize a number of these. Astor, Bundy, Collins, DuPont, Freeman, Kennedy, Lee, Onassis, Reynolds, Rockefeller, Rothschild, Russell, Van Dyne, and Merovingian. Slide 7. The Merovingian line is the most secretive of all the Luciferian families. They wield the most power as they carry the purest satanic genetic. I'll refer back to that throughout this slideshow. The popular artist Marina Abramovic claims to be from the Merovingian bloodline. In fact, she outranks Bill Clinton, who is actually a Rockefeller. Names are changed in Luciferianism to hide the true identities of the individuals, or virtually every name in U.S. Congress would be one of those 14 families, and it would be obvious a coup has been pilfering the USA since its inception. More information on the families can be found in a 1995 PDF by Fritz Springmeier titled Bloodlines of the Illuminati. It is available for free on the internet, and I highly recommend it. It's 300 pages, so it's not a short read, but it's really good. Luciferians trace their bloodlines back all the way past the Amalekites, who practiced in these same cannibalistic human sacrificing rituals. Bloodlines are desperately important to these people because the blood carries Lucifer's energy. They must keep the genetic pure from us normies, quote unquote, who are not from the blue blood line of Satan. Understand these child-murdering cultists believe they are direct descendants of the bloodline of Cain, as in the book of Genesis, Cain and Abel, the twin sons of Eve. As we all know, Cain murdered Abel. Slide 8. Luciferians believe Lucifer was literally the father of Cain, and Adam the father of Abel. According to them, Eve had intercourse twice that day, once with the demagogue and once with a human. She became pregnant with twin boys. The key obfuscation in the biblical story is Eve's boys had different male progeny. Lucifer was the first to have intercourse with Eve and then Adam. Luciferians believe the line of Cain, this is really critical that you understand this, folks. Luciferians believe the line of Cain carries the original genetics of Leviathan. Not a Leviathan, the Leviathan, meaning Satan itself. They believe physical sex is essential, as physical action carries with it life energies and motivations captured within the DNA, just like consciousness. Consciousness is the sine qua non of human biology. So unlike Abel, Cain did not inherit living DNA from his father. He inherited dead DNA from a demon. Cain was missing the human aspect from his psyche life force. In other words, Cain had no conscience within his motivation to action. He was like a lion or wolf, a ruthless killer with sharp instincts to hunt down and kill without remorse. Cain carried a predatory proclivity inherited from his father, which was not anchored in compassionate counterbalance like his brother. The core of a human heart is love. That's probably one of the most important slides in this entire slideshow. Slide 9. Luciferians do not foster the compassionate aspect, as love is absent from Leviathan's DNA. Satan is not human, so its seed did not offer natural human DNA to match Eve. This is why they foster a bloodthirsty, deceiving, sadistic characteristic of themselves. Humanness, the compassionate aspect, is abused out of them and replaced with deception. They identify with Satan through a lack of compassion, lack of humanness, playing deceptions upon the world. They take pride in this. The murdering, death-craving, controlling attitude of Cain is regarded as the supreme motivation to action, not love, not compassion. The more greed, the better. The more lies, the better. The more pain, the better. The more sacrifices, the more power inherited. They believe Lucifer's blood flows through them, so demonic qualities are to be nurtured. You see, folks? This is why they do what they do. Slide 10. Like the Gnostic point of view, Luciferians believe a demagogue, Lucifer, created the world. And like an agnostic, they believe the originator, God, ultimate reality, the that which is no that, to be an unknowable force, past Leviathan, past time, past space, past any tangible reality, non-reality that can be cognized. So the originator to them is irrelevant. Do as thou wilt. It's one of the verses in the Satanic Bible. Do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. The apple in the Eden story is a metaphor which hides the secret of eternal life and has nothing to do with sin. Human intercourse creates an eternal being, and Lucifer informed Eve of this by beguiling her in the garden to usurp her human power for its own demonic agenda. The old term beguiled infers a sexual type of machination, so Eve, beguiled by the demagogue, willingly engaged intercourse with it. She then took the secret informed to her by the serpent to Adam, and Adam then willingly partook. Notice how the entire human procreation education, according to Luciferians, began with deception. Lucifer beguiled Eve so she would willingly give herself away. This is seen as fair play within natural law to the Luciferians, since Eve was complicit. She chose to engage, and so the demonic act was in keeping with natural law, as both parties were willing. As far as Luciferians are concerned, responsibility rests in all complicit parties. A drunk can't blame the booze. Slide 11. Luciferians consider themselves as separate and above the rest of us since the moment Eve conceived. They alone have carried the bloodline of Lucifer, not us, so they are here to carry out a satanic agenda all the way down through time. They truly feel it is their duty to rule us ruthlessly, just as Satan, their father, would. They have documents showing the authenticity of their ancestry. What do you think they store in the Vatican archives besides information like alien species, the time of the origin of the earth, the true beginnings of human beings? Likely, the Eden story is a metaphoric red herring they pose to keep us from ever finding our true origin. Not knowing one's origin cripples self-awareness, and psychological development is impoverished. They know this about humans. They prey through counter-human attributes like betrayal, deception, lies, and theft. Inhumanity is driven in through systematic, organized, MK Ultra-esque ritual abuse of the children within the bloodline families. The idea is to abuse out the humanness, compassion, and bring forth the leviathanic, deception, aspect of their DNA. I hope that makes sense. Often children are hidden and passed between family members to be abused and programmed by others in the cult. Kathy O'Brien outlines types of abuses they engage in her book, Transformation of America. Slide 12. Ritual abuse, biologically, is a systematic destruction of neurons in the brain which postulate human characteristics. Through abuse techniques, Luciferians systematically burn out neuronal pathways in the brain responsible for human characteristics like compassion, love, authenticity. This is why a Luciferian can rape and torture a child. It's because the human aspects of their brain have been obliterated through systematic abuse. They have no capacity for compassion. They basically are a form of serial killer. To understand this, consider a child that is raped by a neighbor 5 times a week over a decade. That child will have very serious neurological disorders because biologically, neuronal pathways controlling behavior have been over-exercised, burned out from daily trauma. It will take years for that individual to regrow and rebuild appropriate behavioral pathways, and some portions of their brain will never fully redevelop because the actual neurons have been physically burned out from the voltage of trauma pushed through them. And that's in a very real biological sense, literally burning the brain out. That's what they do to their children. It's unbelievable. Slide 13. Luciferians have blueprints to carve the human psyche into certain behavioral consistencies from specific pre-planned abuses. A veteran Luciferian family can and will perform abuses upon a child which they know cause behavioral dysfunctions the cult can exploit. This is why they have introjected certain types of spiritual belief systems into the world, because they know how people will respond to self-inflicted mental trauma. Guilt and spiritual suffering cause a culture to be developmentally compromised and therefore easier to understand, know, control, and manipulate. Slide 14. To continue from here, you're going to have to think outside the box they have put you in physically, mentally, and spiritually to grasp the level of deception these people have achieved through history. Realize, folks, these people are living and serving an entirely different reality than you. It does not matter if you don't believe this stuff. They do. And they will continue their plan to dominate the planet, keep it satanic, and remain in full control if we do not wake up. That's our responsibility. No one is coming to save us. We must save ourselves from these parasites. They will hold their position of authority over us until we all wake up and discover what's really going on to put a stop to their agenda. The awakened cannot be unawakened, and they know this about us. Awakening is our greatest asset. That's why it's their greatest fear. We're like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. We have everything we need already to change the situation. Slide 15. The more convincingly the Luciferian can lie and deceive, the more cunning a predator they consider themselves, and the higher they are regarded in the cult. This is why major superstars that pose to fund humanitarian aid for tragedy-stricken islands are actually extorting a natural disaster to make money. How many houses were built in Haiti after millions were given to aid? Luciferians embezzle the money, exploit the people on the island by selling their kids and women into sex slavery, and then bid off the exceptional specimens for ritual murder by the wealthiest Luciferians. Years later, they built hotels on the island in the name of commercial growth, only to use the hotels as off-the-grid child sex grottos for the elite to rape the inhabitants of the island without any fear of getting caught. Despite what they portray, they are that depraved. I'm telling you, folks, there's no limit with these people. It's do as thou wilt. They regard the entire episode as a cunning stunt played on us, the cattle. As we donate to their con, we offer permission to carry out their scheme. We are complicit because we support their narrative even though we don't know what we're doing. We enable the con because it would not happen without our participation. This is all fair play to the Luciferians, just in the same way as Eve was fair play to Satan. Can you see the pattern of deception? Leviathan has taught them well. Slide 16. Understanding life in this sense gives a much deeper perspective of the game they are playing as opposed to the game you are playing. Not understanding begets fear, so they have kept us in the dark about everything, so understanding was not available. We are caught in an intended ignorance. Knowledge is power. If we are deceived because of their lies, they simply are playing a more cunning game, and so they inherit control through our enabling of it. Nature is merciless. Our only option is self-responsibility, because if you get caught in a way of thinking trap, only you can get yourself out. Nothing outside of you can be responsible for you. Fervent prayer may be good mental exercise, but it does not unlock the trap. Physical action, paying attention, learning, awareness, these unlock the trap. Until we wake up, the situation will not change. Luciferian power rests upon deceiving us into belief, and then acting out upon a world they suggest while distrusting the one we actually experience. It comes down to that, turning the human mind against itself until mental rigor mortis sets in and development stops. Humans must defeat themselves to be defeated. Slide 17. I've read and heard lectures from satanic priests and survivors of satanic ritual abuse like Jay Parker, Kathy O'Brien, and Mark Passio estimate 600,000 to over 1 million children per year are destroyed by this cult in allegiance to Lucifer. How can this be possible? Well, maybe because the FBI does not keep track of missing children, which is interesting because the last time I checked, the FBI and CIA basically track everything, from what we text to who our friends are, where we eat, where we sleep, what we drive, but none of those agencies track how many children go missing each year. Does that make any sense to anybody? That doesn't make any sense to me either. So where I shower and where I work is more important to the FBI and CIA than human offspring? The evidence supports yes, since they do not keep track. And that's the issue. They don't care about us. We are cattle to be deceived just as their father has taught them. Because if it was official 1 million children were disappearing each year, we would revolt. And they know this. As far as Luciferians are concerned, your kids are their next Happy Meal. Slide 18. Fourth dimensional beings feed on the electromagnetic energy humans emit. The same electromagnetic energy an acupuncturist accesses with stainless steel pins to invigorate natural force to heal the human body is the same energy these insidious creatures crave. We are morphic resonance, imbued with consciousness, and since satanic beings are parasites, they seek to consume us. We carry precious, beautiful, perfectly balanced life force, which they do not and cannot contain. In this way, you are assured you are not a demagogic being, as the Luciferians insist. You are imbued with an energy a demagogue, namely Lucifer, cannot possess, and therefore could never make manifest. In other words, a thorn does not bear grapes. This is your assurance of identity as a conscious, natural being. You are more in accord with a metamorphosing butterfly than a fourth-dimensional being. Don't buy their lies about you. Nature's bounty is your yin-yang inheritance, not a curse. Do not be deceived, fellow human. You are not and never were a wretch. Slide 19. Leviathanic creatures do not have physical form like us. They are phantoms, shapeshifters. They can manifest themselves at will and are not bound by three-dimensional laws of space that hold us in a state of tensioned splendor. They see humans as something to devour, nothing more than fodder for consumption. They are pure darkness, and this emptiness lack drives their craving for our life energy. They do not contain potential nor seek from life in ways that we can and do. We are a drug to them. Leviathan seeks only to consume. It, not God, is the jealous one, because Leviathan cannot experience the radiance and fullness of life as we do. Slide 20. Understand the universe is infinite, and therefore infinite possibilities are inherent to it. This includes differing organizations of life in dimensions outside our own. To assume we are the exclusive form of life in a perfect universe of infinite size and potential is short-sighted, especially when considering the maths composing infinity. These fourth-dimensional beings are merely a predatory species roaming the universe looking for an opportunity. They found one on this planet. To consider Lucifer as the concretization of all evil within the universe is to continue a Luciferian lie while inferring respect that is not due. These parasites want us to think of them as an overwhelming threat, since threat introjects fear. Fear compromises human will. They know this about us. Consider what would be more satisfying to Lucifer than to deceive humankind by their own self-driven fears invented by Luciferians. While you think about that, consider this. Lady Liberty in New York Harbor is actually a monument to the female god Isis, the mother of Osiris. As in Egyptian spiritual lore, Osiris is the Egyptian precursor of Jesus Christ, which is why in Christianity, like in the Egyptian myth, human sacrifice is the transmogrifying ethos within the belief system. The cross is a plain demonstration of human sacrifice worship, yet counterintuitive justifications have been canonized to disguise the obvious. We are surrounded by their deceptions. To the Luciferian, all of creation is a desecration of the originator, ultimate reality. The earth, the universe, all that is but a tarnishing of the pureness of the originator. As the Luciferian sees it, life is a celebration of impurity. The cattle, all of us, are to be a living sacrifice to this celebration of impurity principle they embrace through Lucifer. They are here to rule us into an inevitable self-destruction which they orchestrated, instigated, and are seeing through. This is why wars throughout time have been global manipulations, not chance occurrence between enemies. Lucifer, the creator of the universe, in their belief, is a principal manifestation of impurity. Therefore, life is a celebration of filth. Think about that. So in the Luciferian mind, everything is reversed. All values, all missions, all motivation to action, the overreaching conception of what life really is, what a human being is, what the universe is, all is opposite to what you believe. Slide 22. As the movie Dune proclaimed, fear is a mind killer, and it indeed is. Sin is a mind control technique. Ancient Rome knew about the public what Satan knew about Eve. Humans can be endlessly manipulated if they are complicit in the controlling mechanism. Judaism, Islam, and Christianity are all master control mechanisms. Western religion controls masses of people by limiting their potential through fear, because every Western religionist knows they are a sinner and cannot be trusted. That's called inculcated fear. Convince a world they are all sinners, and they will never allow themselves to experience any other kind of reality but that of a sinner. And therein is the con, because victory over sin is a Pyrrhic victory, since it only exists in your mind. Sin is a hustle which frustrates human development in the universe. It's a Luciferian fear technique to developmentally compromise prey, which is us. Believe you're a sinner, and you'll act it out, live, and die as one. As Ram Dass wrote, if you think you're free, there is no escape. Slide 23. We all have electromagnetic energy pouring out of us because we are a wellspring of physical and spiritual power. As we age, life experience shifts the color spectrum of our electromagnetics from clear white, like that of a baby, to all the colors of a rainbow. And so each torrent of electromagnetic current surrounding each human being is of a unique color signature based on experience, life attitude, and the surrounding environment. Our electromagnetic energy can be magnified when experiencing pleasure, but it's especially charged when we experience pain. When a human is under greater and greater levels of physical pain, the electromagnetic energy coming off the body intensifies. More pain means more vulnerable electromagnetic energy. Slide 24. Just like we transform physical elements like bread and water into mental energy, these fourth-dimensional beings transform our electromagnetics into fourth-dimensional loosh. Loosh is a slang term for electromagnetics as food in a usurping, raping sense. Lucifer and its minions are extremely attracted to our electromagnetics, our loosh, because we contain natural earth energy while holding a large potential of consciousness. See, that's all contained in electromagnetics. Children are most desired because they carry the purest loosh. The longer a child can be kept alive under greater and greater levels of pain, the more loosh can be pilfered from the child. The most amount of pain for the longest period of time is attempted, as this increases adrenaline load and electromagnetic output. That's why physical torture is an essential part of the satanic ritual. The sacrificing agent must be brought to a high energy output to satisfy Lucifer. Think of humans in terms of commercial production of meat when attempting to grasp how they see us. We are merely cattle to them. Slide 25. A fully possessed, experienced, skilled witch can keep a child in unfathomable pain for extended periods of time before the child finally passes out or physically succumbs to exhaustion and dies. By providing a living child to Lucifer as a sacrificial gift and bond, worldly power is bestowed to the witch. As the child is dying, their blood is drank by the witch. The ultra-fresh, warm blood of the child provides an enormous physical energy boost, enormous sexual arousal, large volumes of anti-aging constituents, and a massive drug pleasure state similar to heroin. This is all due to the mass of adrenochrome, sympathetic biology, flowing through the blood of the child due to the pain they endured. Often Luciferian rituals climax the moment just after the child is murdered. All participants share in the blood drinking, and a huge group orgy commences. It does not get more disgusting than this, folks. You're going to be exposed to a group who has made human deception, torture, and consumption a lifestyle. And they are everywhere. Mark Passio, a former satanic priest, claims the number of these lunatics in America tops 30 million. And you wonder why they had to instigate an entire child procuring system. Here we go, folks. Fasten your seatbelts. Slide 26. The greater the pain being endured, the more adrenaline is manufactured by the adrenal glands. Children hyperventilate from the constant screaming due to the intense pain of the torturing procedure, so their blood becomes laden with oxygen. The high levels of oxygen pushed into the bloodstream from the lungs oxidizes adrenaline in the blood into its highly metabolizable form known as adrenochrome. Adrenochrome is a chemical asset of our sympathetic autonomic nervous system. The human body can instantly metabolize adrenochrome since pure adrenaline has been partially metabolized by oxygen via oxidation. Blood becomes saturated with adrenochrome as the body attempts to provide the sympathetic biology necessary for a fight or flight scenario, which the child is enduring. But there is no escape for the child. The witch consumes all this biologic energy as they drink the blood directly from the child's body while the blood is still warm and pumping. Adrenochrome almost instantly breaks down into useless compounds in the blood once the child's heart stops. So the blood is best consumed right before the moment of death. Meaning, the child is alive and aware the witch is drinking their blood as they die. The jugular in the neck provides highly oxygenated, adrenalized blood straight off the aorta via a quick stab to the neck and a deep bite. Vampirism is very real. Sorry to tell you that. Slide 27. We were born imbued with all the natural force we need to heal from this parasitic infection. It's called conscious awareness. Awareness is realized through the self-responsible act of knowing who you are, which is exactly what the Luciferians do not want you to ever realize. Because if you did, you couldn't be controlled. You couldn't be manipulated. You couldn't be brought into fear. Human potential is wielded not through beliefs or control mechanisms, but through a knowingness of and an identifying with oneself. All potentials rest within you, and therefore us. Humankind must save itself because the only way is through. That is the way of natural law. Nature, which is all that is, has everything necessary to maintain equilibrium. This is why it is so important for each to wake up so the nature within the collective can equalize and bring forth balance. The heart guides and shapes the collective through each individual gift and inclination. We create our own destiny in this as individuals and so as species. Each must do their part for balance to be realized. If we do not awaken to our truth, Luciferians will enslave us all to their bidding because nature is merciless. A self-limited consciousness will be devoured by a limitless universe. We all must recognize and therefore experience the limitless truth that we are to save ourselves from these parasites. Truth can take any pressure applied. Truth always prevails. Be it.